Okay, everybody ready? Get this meeting going, celebrating Christmas a week early, so we can make everybody happy, so we have a whole week of happiness. Isn't that the way to do it? And Dave didn't get the message.
Hey, guys.
Okay, yeah.
I'd like to move to put that on for the.
Do you have a preference?
Okay. Well, I'm asking the clerk if there's anything additions to the agenda. I think we better add one.
He might be sticking around.
Dave forgot his Christmas spirit. You haven't got a green hat on though, so you're not Grinch. Okay, any additions to the agenda? Okay. County Council, we got anything you want to read into closed session?
Yes, I do, Chairman. There's 4 items for closed session. There's conference with your labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The employee organization is all units and also unrepresented employees, extra help employees, specifically paid call firefighters. Your agency designated representatives are Adrian Caleb and your county administrative officer. There's 1 item for anticipated litigation. There's significant exposure pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, paragraph 2 or 3, subdivision D, 1 case, and the performance evaluation of your Director of Social Services under Government Code Section 54957. Thank you.
Okay, any public comment on the closed items? Seeing none, we'll go into closed session and do our duty. We'll get her done.
Yep.
Okay, folks, we're ready to get this meeting started. As you can see up here, we're kind of celebrating Christmas, since this is our last meeting for the board before Christmas, so we got to enjoy the days we can. And if you please would turn off your phone, I'd appreciate it. County Council, is any items to report out of closed session?
Chairman, there are no reportable actions from today's closed session.
Okay. Item number 3, in open and close in memory of people, Millie Marshall, who moved up to the mountains, boy, I don't know, probably in the middle 70s. She passed away this last week. She, this woman's, you can't believe how tough she is. She used to be a waitress at the Three Girls Cafe there in North Fork. You used to go there, didn't you, Max?
Pardon?
The Girls Cafe in North Fork?
What about it?
Did you ever go in there?
Always.
Oh, that's good. Well, this, Millie worked there. Anyway, her and her partner, I think they were married. They had in 1980, had a really, really bad motorcycle wreck, and he passed away, and she was supposed to live, but she lost her sight, and for about 12, 15 hours, they didn't think she was going to make it, but she did make it, and being blind the rest of her life, she went back to school in Fresno, down at Fresno State, and graduated with honors at the regular, and then got her master's in social services. And she worked down here for the Fresno blind group till she retired. And then her and her husband joined the Elks Club in Oakhurst about 8 years ago. And he was the grand hoopa, I call him, and she was the grand queen, she said, because if he was going to do it, and he was semi-blind himself, it's really, they made a great partnership. But she was a caring woman, and she died in her sleep that night, and peacefully, and I think she lived a wonderful life, so we're going to miss her. Anybody, you guys have any other? Yes.
Well, look.
There it goes. I've pushed all kinds of buttons now. I just wanted to open and close in the memory of John Howland. A lot of you may have known him through Cap MC and just being around at golf tournaments, beating everybody.
Beating everybody?
Beating everybody. He was an amazing golfer. Always had a smile on his face. You know, it was always his foursome at the 4th of July tournaments that would come in at like 22, 23 under, and I'd always question it until I got to watch his swing, and I know he eagled out from like 220 yards on hole 9, but you know, his daughter and I were great friends in high school, and my heart goes out to her, and he was just a great guy, but lost his battle to cancer last week, and we'll definitely miss him around here, and just wanted to you know, thoughts and prayers go out to his family, his new wife, and of course Lauren, his daughter.
Thank you. Anybody else? None? Okay. Our invocation will be done by Pastor Lance Leach, again, from Valley West Christian Center. Thank you very much. And Maria, how would you like to lead the flag salute?
Good morning.
Wait for it. There we are.
There's the direct line.
Supervisors, Merry Christmas to you all, those of you who are here. You know, it's a busy season, always is. And in the Christmas story, we all know there's a part at the very end that kind of, I want to pray for you guys as well as others. It says in verse 19 of Luke 2, "But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. Father God, we thank you that we are rich. We're richly blessed with so many gifts, and we thank you for this community, this county, from its mountains to its farmlands to all the efforts in between to make it all that it's supposed to be for the people of the county. We thank you for all those who work so hard and diligently throughout the year. And we point to these different places, times of the year for rest and to refresh. And this is one of them. And so we pray for each of the county employees as well as our leadership, that they would be able to enjoy the fruit of their labor. They would be able to be with their family and appreciate the gifts and all that they've been given. We pray that they would ponder it and treasure it in their hearts, treasure their relationships, their children, their grandchildren. We pray for health and strength on our leadership. We pray that they have great fresh vision and come back in the new year with excitement and joy. And for all those that support and help, we ask the same. We, of course, ask for safety in this time. We also ask that, God, you would provide for those who are in great need, even to the last moment where they think there is no help, no provision, that you would come like you do with those around that are petitioned and brought in to do the work and the hands and the feet. We thank you for the great establishments within our community, from the Rescue Mission to the Food Bank to all the different ones that do so much work within the county in the different areas. And so with all this, we thank you for the season, and we ask that the joy and the excitement would not leave us, and that we would continue to focus and remember all that the blessings that have already been given to us, and that all that's already been unwrapped, and that we enjoy every day. In your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Leach, very much, and thank you for those kind words. And you're right, we as a county are so blessed with our employees and our citizens that we're just very, very lucky. So thank you. Thank you, Maria, for doing that. Well, folks, we've been honoring the 125th birthday anniversary of Madera County for the whole year. And I just want to take a second just to really thank everyone who participated. Our PIT group, the committee they put together to do the 125th anniversary, and also all the people that donated, all the different organizations and people that donated to keep it going. And I really wanted to thank Melissa and her son who drove our float to all the parades from one end of the county to the other, Chowchilla, the Ranchos, up the Oakhurst, and Raymond. I mean, we hit them all. And so I can't thank all of you enough, and it's been quite an honor to be chairman and be a part of this 125th birthday in Madera County. So, and that's the reason I decided I'd wear my flashy Christmas suit today, and even my pants are colored, see?
Very flashy.
And
I hadn't noticed.
oh, you hadn't? So now you know, buddy, the rest of the story. But it's been an honor being the chairman this year, and looking forward next year to what Brett's going to do and bring some new ideas. And it's going to be a great year for Madera County. That's all I can say, because it's going to have to be pretty good to beat this year, though. We've had an awesome year. So, okay, our 125th birthday. O'Neill's is named for Charles O'Neill, who bought the first store in the area in 1878. The community rose around the store on Road 211 between Madera and North Fork and along the Willow Creek. The post office opened in 1887, and O'Neill was the postmaster, and he operated a small hotel. The Mud Springs gold mine was near O'Neill's and Hildreth, and it was an underground mine. It was an elevation of 1,440 feet prior to 1914. $250,000 was taken from this mine. It's probably the furthest gold mine on the whole area from Currup North all the way down. It's probably the most southern gold mine. So they had one on the ranch I worked on in North Fork too, and they actually was taking gold out, and they hit tungsten, and they started taking more tungsten out of it. So we've got a lot of mines and a lot of great things up there. And O'Neill's family is still, there's no more O'Neills left, but Jameson, Mrs. Jameson was O'Neill, and John and Bill were both, they're both part of the O'Neill family, so they still got most of that land there too. Of course, John passed away, but Bill is still running the ranches and everything in that area, so a lot of history right there, so thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to get down to some serious business. Item number 4.
Public comment. The first 15 minutes of each regular session are set aside for members of the public to address the board on any matter under the jurisdiction of the board but not appearing on the agenda. The board will not take action on any items presented under public comment. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone addressing the board is asked to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium and state their name and county of residence for the record.
Good morning, Tracy Kennedy, your Madera County Treasurer Tax Collector. Magnificent suit, Tom Wheeler. Had I known, I'd have worn mine.
Well, you got
Anyway,
your red on. So
I know,
that's-
see?
yeah, you got dingleberries hanging and all those kind of things.
Well.
Yeah. That's good.
Anyway, the taxes are in. So we have finished our tax collections, and here are the results. Almost $100 million in this first installment. As you can see, most of it is in the first installment, and then there's some in the second installment. A lot of people are paying their first and seconds at the same time, so they get the income tax benefit. The best part about it is the e-checks, about 4 boxes down, where you can go online and you can pay for free with your credit or your checking account, and it's posted right there. You can get a receipt right there. You can view your cart, and it's simple and easy and free. And so free's good, right? Yeah. So last year, probably we had maybe 500 or 600, and you look at the balance in it, almost 2,300 parcels paid with our e-checks. So that is a real emerging market. We really want to encourage that amongst people. Credit cards, way high also, big increase in credit cards. The only problem, drawback with credit cards is there's a service fee, 2.35%. The county doesn't get it, it's with our third-party vendor, but a lot of people pay.
Yeah, can you explain to the people, because I've had now 3 calls now, about how the credit card quit working at 5 o'clock, was it, or?
Well, it's a funny thing on Heartland. We disable it at midnight is when we
Midnight,
disable
okay,
it.
midnight.
It's supposed to be disabled at midnight. But there were some error message that people got, your 3 evidently, and even though they got an error message that their payment wasn't processed, it was processed.
Well, it was?
So, yeah.
Oh.
So now the one lady that you and I talked about,
Right.
she was late.
Yeah.
It's purposely taken down at midnight, and it's disabled until we balance. So it's out of service essentially for about a week until we get all of our mail in.
Why would it be, I mean, what would be the difference?
Well, we don't, because we haven't balanced, we don't want the incoming because it hasn't uploaded the payments, the penalties, 10% after the 10th. So we don't, until after we get all the payments in, like it was on the 14th. Yeah. So we balance everything and we post everything as of December 10th, and we don't change the date physically until after we get everything balanced. So then once everything is balanced for the 10th, then the penalties will apply. But up until then, up until everything's balanced, the penalties aren't.
Right, but it
Processed.
says right on your bill that what the penalty would be if you're late, right
Right.
after 5 o'clock.
Right,
So.
right. Well, it's the same penalty. It's the
But it
same
says what-
penalty.
It says what the date and the time, don't they, when you do the transaction on the receipts and stuff?
Well, we can't change the dates. It would be too cumbersome for the incoming traffic on the, I mean, it's not just us. I mean, all of the credit cards go down. I thought it was pretty good that we were only down 3 days because we were off 1 day in the middle of the week for cutoff.
Yeah.
So,
No, I don't care about that.
Yeah.
I just was wondering why we would cut it off if we're still paying. I mean, the next day even.
because the penalties haven't applied yet. We haven't changed the date in the system yet
Yeah.
until we get done posting all the payments,
Because then you'd have to then collect that 10% on a different payment, right?
separately,
Yeah.
and we couldn't post it anyway. We couldn't post it anyway. See, anything that's paid over credit card is posted automatically.
Oh,
So it's posted automatically to the system. So we have to cut it off as of December 10th, because then everything that was.
somebody smart enough, if they know they're after that 5 o'clock, that they got to pay that 10%?
Are people smart enough?
It's already printed on the bill.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think people know. If they don't know that day, then they'll know in a couple. So, yeah. But until we change the date, it's 12/10, so we have to disable the system.
Okay. I still don't understand it, but I guess that's the way it works. It works.
Okay, well, we can talk, maybe, come to my office, and I'll show you what it is that we do.
Well, you took in a lot of money, so go
Yeah.
ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just was trying to figure that
And,
out.
yeah, and then, of course, most payments are made the old-fashioned way, through the good old blue envelopes. And these are, of course, very labor-intensive. But to that end, I want to thank Alyssa and Carol in the assessor's office that helped us. They opened and sorted mail. And also Olga from the auditor's office came in for a little while and helped us open and sort mail, because it's pretty busy at that time. Security was awesome. We had security in the office every day, 8 to 5, through the whole time for collections. And they were there, which was really good. And we also have a new drop box. We put a new drop box in the hallway, and there's big signage on it, so people can come in with their payment and they can just drop it in that drop box and we can process it that day. So that was a nice, another option for people. But all in all, we had probably for that last week, 50, 60 people in the lobby, in our little lobby, every day. It was pretty busy. So anyway. And of course, phones rang off the hook. And we only have 2 incoming lines, which is fine. We don't want any more. But 2 is good. So
Dave?
anyway,
I
thank
just
you.
I wanted to say I was one of those people that was in the office there twice, in fact, and paid my bill with cash, but and somebody else's bill for Christmas.
Aw.
Yeah, but
You didn't do
You're-
mine.
no, I didn't know you needed it. So anyway, your people are very, very kind and responsive and just good with the public, and I really appreciate their demeanor. When people are coming to pay a tax bill, it's not the most fun thing to do, and yet they make it nice, and if that's possible. So my congratulations to them and you, and thank you.
Well, thank you for saying that, because it is very emotional. It's very emotional when we are in there and we're taking people's money. We've ruined their Christmas, and but people know that they need to pay their property taxes. So it is very emotional. And I always tell people, my staff, that nobody comes into our office because we have a buy one, get one free, right? There's no sales, there's none of this. So everybody is essentially comes into our office because they feel a sense of duty
They're
and
not rushing in
obligation.
saying, I get to pay my taxes.
No, we don't get them just skipping in and happy and put a star on the Christmas tree. So, but anyway, so thank you for saying that, because it
Yeah.
is a very
No,
emotional
they were
time.
great. I mean, fantastic both times I was in there, so.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything
Very
else?
much. Nope.
Okay,
Good
thanks.
job. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Wheeler and the other members of the County Board of Supervisors. My name is Elizabeth Weisner, and I'm the Community Services Program Manager with the Community Action Partnership of Madera County. The address is 1225 Gill Avenue, Madera, California. And I come before you this morning to share the dates of the upcoming 2019 Madera County Homeless Point-in-Time Count.
Oh.
It's mandated by HUD. It always takes place the last 2 weeks in January. This year, it's going to be January 29th, 30th, and 31st. The flyer hasn't come out yet, so I'll be forwarding that when I get it. And last year, we had such overwhelming support from the County Board of Supervisors and from all the departments in the county. And I recognize that they have busy schedules, and yet I think every department sent us people that, they gave them up for 3 days to come help us do the count. And so I would like to ask for that same support this year.
Thank you. Whoever's listening out there, they need help, get a hold of them and do some help counting up there, all over the county, right?
Yes, whole
Good.
county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Any other public comment? Okay. We will move to the consent calendar, and before we do anything on the consent calendar, unless you guys got some questions, Regina's going to talk about item E.
Yes, Chairman and members of the board, item E is a resolution authorizing acceptance of a non-competitive allocation award under the No Place Like Home program. That's a California program that funds approximately $190 million, and there's a scrivener's error on page 2 of the resolution that I'd like to amend before it's signed, and essentially it's to clarify paragraph number 2. It says that the chairman and the board of supervisors or his designee. I want to specifically ask that the designee is the director of behavioral health, and that will allow him to submit and be awarded any funds from this program. And of course, that would come back to the board upon an award, but just to allow for the application to take place, that I'll amend that resolution as part of your vote would be to designate the director of behavioral health.
Okay. Any questions on that? And I guess in red here says item L, the statewide general elections, the certified results. Did Becky wanted to say something about that?
Yes, she's
Oh,
coming
there
forward
she, I
right now.
didn't see you back there.
It's because I'm not wearing that kind of suit.
It was. You're pretty bright there, girl. Want to borrow my jacket?
I want the pants, actually.
That's, I don't know where to talk about that one.
Rebecca Martinez, Clerk Recorder, Registrar of Voters. Good morning. This morning on your consent calendar is the approval or adoption of the certified results for the November 6th election. My request today is that you replace the election summary that you previously received. It's dated November 27, up in the top right-hand corner. I believe that we replaced it or have provided you with a copy of the results that have the date of 11/21 up in the top right-hand corner. So I'd like to.
11/21.
Yeah, I'd like to replace the 27th with the 21st, just to keep things consistent. The difference is that after I certified the election, we printed a summary report that's dated November 27, just to reflect the percentage of votes cast so that they equal 100%. If you look at a particular contest, you'll notice that on 11/21, the percentages that each candidate got does not equal 100%. And the reason is because the first printout did not contain all of the votes or all of the ballots that were cast. It was more the votes that were cast. So there's no undervotes, no overvotes, so technically no votes. Were not there, but we printed it, and it created some confusion about when I actually certified. But I certified the results on the 21st. We'll make sure that the website reflects both summaries, but the certification is the total votes.
That's what you gave us today.
Right, and that has, the fact that it's got the 100% percentage on the 27th has no effect on the total votes that each candidate got. It's the same. If you compare the two, the vote totals are the same.
Okay. Regina?
Concur, we've gone through that quite a bit. So
We beat it to death.
yeah, essentially, the percentages now total 100%, but those aren't calculated into the actual votes, meaning the people that might mark two candidates or leave it blank.
Right.
And so there was an inquiry from one of our local governments about, why it didn't total 100%. So a click of the button on the program can do that. However, the date on the top is important for the department, and so they wanted to do the flip-flop here to make sure it's clear.
And then on page 7, that Madera Union School District Area 5, that's not certified, right?
That's correct. It's
So we're
still,
waiting to the courts, what are they going to do?
it is still pending.
Okay. So if they could rule either way, that might be the final if the court rules that way, or they might have a re-election.
They can either order me to certify, I suppose, is one of the options, or they can make the decision to call for another election. At this point, we're waiting for communication from either the district or the council of one of the candidates.
Okay. Okay. Any, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, I just want to congratulate you, Becky,
Yeah.
for, taking the precaution to make sure that these things are done right. And I think you're very wise, and you've done extremely well in all of this transition. Things have been done extremely well. And I think you've eliminated a lot of problems as a result of just the way it's been conducted. So thank you.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate all the assistance that I got from not only people throughout, this county government center, the board, Tom's, but also the community. They came together and they worked hard to get whatever candidates elected that they wanted, and I think it showed a lot of interest. Our turnout was almost 68%.
It's incredible.
It really was, and in November of 14, it was 52, so we really had a huge turnout. We had very few complaints. We're looking forward to March of 2020. That should be a little crazy around here again.
So
But
are we still going to keep using the same voting method?
yes,
And is the state going to adopt that for the whole state, you think?
so in 2020, every county in the state of California can opt in.
Okay, can opt in, they don't have to.
They do not have to. And right now, there was a very low number of counties that were going to move towards this model in 2020.
Yeah,
But if they haven't started the process already,
yeah, it's going to be hard to do.
it's going to be difficult for them to maneuver a 2020, because we all know that is sheer craziness. That's why I moved forward in 2018, so that I didn't have to consider 2020, because that's when you get more voters,
Well, it proved to be successful, and I think the success of it is what you and Justin did by going around to every community, at least once, most times 2 or 3, 4 times, to
Did.
educate the people, because every person I've talked to that had any doubts, even just the other day, I got a letter, a handwritten letter that they delivered up here that God
Right.
gave me, and I called her, and after I explained it to her, because she said, well, look how much this really opens up for lots of fraud on an election. I said, ma'am, this is so clean that you won't even believe. So I went through the whole thing with her, and she says, well, now that I know, she says, I like it. So
Right,
and
and
she
we-
said that, and I told her about the difference between 350 employees to 50 employees, and she said, I just like to go in. I said, well, you can go into Oakhurst, Coarse-Code, or Madera, and Chowchilla Ranch, those last 3 days. And she said she actually did that. So, but so many of them realized, and it's the funny part about her, that she used to do mail-in. And she says, I didn't trust this, so I decided I better do it this way. But now I will mail it in. So
interesting.
it's funny how people think.
So North Fork, we put the drop box, the ballot drop box, in North Fork, and it was utilized. It wasn't utilized to the degree that I thought it would, but I'm assuming that in 2020 it will be. But you have the most beautiful box.
Thank you.
When
I'm going to put this over the top of it.
You should, because the box that we have here and the one in Chowchilla are plain.
Yeah.
They don't stand out as well. So we'll be making the rest of the boxes look like yours. And then we plan to put a metal box up in the Oakhurst area instead of the box that we have inside the grocery outlet.
Oh, okay.
Because this way it's open 24/7, and I think people are more receptive to using the
Might put it at
outside
library.
box.
At the library in Oakhurst. That'd be an ideal place probably for it.
Yeah, we'll take a look, because we've got to find one that's on the path, or in the pathway, if you will. There's certain criteria we have to follow there. But I do want to change the inside to make it an outside drop box, so.
Yeah, there's really no excuse for people not to vote anymore. And,
You know-
You got all kinds of time to.
There really isn't. I had a woman who tried to drop off her ballot after 8 o'clock, and she was upset. And I said, listen, we were here for 10 days before today.
Yeah, no kidding.
But she said, but I had to work. And I said, I know, but not for 10 days straight.
Yeah,
Weekends?
weekends and everything.
Yeah. So we just need to do a lot more outreach and make sure that people understand that voting day is not just Tuesday.
Right.
It's every day for 11 days. So we'll have to start spelling out the days because people are so used to voting on Tuesday. So
Thank you, Becky.
We'll all just post our I voted today stickers for 10 days on Instagram. That's how people remember.
that's what I'm
that.
thinking. I'm going to have to put days of the week on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I voted on Tuesday.
Okay. Any public comments on the consent calendar? See it?
I move to approve with revisions to item E, including the Director of Behavioral Health to sign and execute.
And then-
The item L to revise, to include the document dated the 21st.
Second. You got a second? Roll call, please.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez? Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay, we're going to move up the DA's item. What number was that?
7D, Chairman.
7D? Okay, we're going to do 7D.
District Attorney Department, discussion and consideration of approval to authorize the District Attorney to hire Legal Secretary 2 Susan Murray to the E-Step effective December 1, 2018.
Good morning.
Good morning, Angela Hill from the DA's office. I'm here to answer any questions.
Any questions on this?
Yes.
Gentlemen? You got a
I
question?
have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I want to know that this was passed through the newly elected DA before we take this process.
Which part? The
Was-
entire,
Was the DA, the newly elected DA, brought into the process and informed of what was going on here?
no, sir. I don't know that she's taken office. Yes, this is something that we started, actually, the process we started was back in July, I believe, and we were
So
just trying
she
to
is
finish off the
not
process.
signed off on this hiring?
Not that I know of. As far as I know.
She can't sign off on
She
it.
can't. She's
Well, I
not.
know that, but I'm just saying she hasn't been even asked.
Not that I know of.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, any public comments on this? Seeing none.
I move to deny the request as a result of timing.
As I mentioned, Your Honor, sir, it was something that we did start back in July, so it's just
I
been.
don't care.
Okay. I just thought I'd make sure you had the information.
Yeah.
Dave, would you consider rescheduling until after the first of the year?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Max. I think that's a good idea. I'll amend my motion to move this to the, after the first of the year agenda.
8th of January.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, because you have no problem with.
I don't have any problem with the
person that's-
individual being hired. I have a problem with hiring when we have an outgoing DA and the new incoming DA has not
Doesn't get to.
had the opportunity to sign off on it.
May I just clarify, I'm not sure if you're saying you have trouble hiring for the position, or the
No.
only item that's on here is whether it should be at the
This
E-step?
This person's already hired.
She's
correct?
already,
Correct.
She's already been hired?
She's already been
Correct.
hired. This
four
was
years.
just.
Okay, so this is just a move in
new
the.
hire.
Yeah, this isn't a new hire, but I see where you're going. I would say that too, like you wouldn't want to, someone's coming in to build a new
Right.
team, you don't want to
Right.
start off there, but she's already been hired, just, this is
Right.
just what step she
She's
comes
been
in
working.
at.
She's a
Okay,
great
I
worker.
misread that then.
She's a great worker.
Yeah.
Okay, my
Regina, did you have something to
assumption was
say?
wrong.
I was just confirming what was clarified on the dais, that there has been an offer and the hire has been effectuated. And so I was just looking at, talking with labor about the labor implications with our Director of Human Resources.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think your line of logic
Right.
makes sense, to like saying, we're going to bring on a new position or something like that.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, I think it's important at this point to consult the new elected in anything that would be budgetary or anything like that. I think that's an important thing at this point. I would do that as a courtesy if I was outgoing.
I understand, as noted in the line item, that she's been actually working in the office, and she's been being paid at this step already, and it's
Okay.
in the budget for this step, so
Yeah, no change
we
to the
budgeted
budget,
it
yeah.
this way.
Okay.
Nothing, new or anything.
Okay, so in that case, then I'll remove my motion, I'll withdraw my motion.
Move to approve.
And Chairman, members of the board, I would like to also comment, if it brings any comfort, there's a probationary period of 1 year, and so there'll be a time period for the DA-elect to evaluate
Good.
the performance.
Okay, thank you, and I'll second the motion.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez? Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you. Go to court.
Thank you.
Got a jump start on it today.
Thank you for the clarification, colleague.
Yeah. Makes a difference.
Yeah, it does, it makes every difference to me.
Okay, no public hearing today. Item 7A.
7A, County Administration Department, Human Resources Operations Division. Presentation and discussion of quarterly update, operational priorities for the Board of Supervisors and the Mission 2023 Strategic Plan.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Adrienne Caleb reporting this morning. This item is presented before you as a quarterly update on the operational priorities for the upcoming year or years, as well as a follow-up to the commitment that we would bring the board a sample strategic plan by the end of this year. And that's the primary focus of today's item, is to show the board the work that has been completed in draft form. We still have a lot of work to do to finalize our strategic plan. But before I show the sample, I wanted to remind the public that our strategic plan, our operational priorities are as follows. Employee engagement and wellness, public safety, public information, technology, infrastructure, government relations, and health. And the overarching priority for all of those 7 is our community. And we all serve the community, and the community is what we have in mind when we complete this work. So I would like to just share with the board some work that's been completed. I have to give credit where credit is due to Melissa Da Silva for putting together this draft and the visual that you'll see in just a moment. We think I think it looks great, but we do have some cleanup work to do. We're going to engage a contractor, Angela Antonore, to help us finalize this plan. Here's the first page. It's Madera County. It says Draft Strategic Plan 2023. This is table of contents. Wonderful picture of the board. One of our first pictures, and you are all at the helm of the priorities for our organization, so that's very important for us to highlight you here. This is our mission, vision, and core values. Executive leadership, we have Eric Fleming, the CAO, and then the team, we're working together, the strategic plan and evaluation team. That's myself and each of the chiefs of staff. Our departments. Here is our logo. We're still going to work on our logo internally, and we also may enlist some assistance. But the strategic planning process, I wanted to this is the only thing that I want to read for the sake of time. But basically why this plan came to fruition was actually a result of our initiatives that we discussed last year during our management workshop. And the county administrative officer evaluated the county business model and determined that a more focused effort was needed to deliver effective, efficient, and innovative services to the community. To enhance this work, the CAO enlisted the help of key stakeholders, staff, and the community to begin the process of developing the strategic plan. And this is the draft that we're looking at today. One of the things that we did was that we had a number of meetings with internal stakeholders. A number of county employees came together to work on the strategic focus areas and the measurements. And so what we did is we looked at a number of formats that we could utilize for this particular strategic plan. And here is a draft. And what we did was we color-coded each focus area. And as you can see, focus area number 1 is the community. And then it goes down from there with the employees, public safety, public information, technology, infrastructure, government relations, and lastly, health. And what you'll see next is we took each of these particular focus areas and we have pages that talk about what results we want, the strategic objectives, the initiatives, and then the performance measures to ensure that we realize the results of each objective. And so I'll just very quickly go through this. Here's the employee section, public safety, public information. Technology is one of the longer of the focus areas. I have been in just very brief communication with our Chief Information Officer. We will try to scale this down a little bit.
Wow, a lot of technology.
Infrastructure. Jamie Bax was the lead on this, and we'll continue to work with her. Government relations. This is the intergovernmental relationships that have been built and our meetings that we've had with a number of agencies within our county. And then health. And we actually chose red, kind of tried to mimic the Red Cross. And anyway, it was fun, and this is just a back page of our tentative back page of the strategic plan. This is actually a graphic that was included in a recent Business Journal article that highlighted the county and our operations, and you'll notice that the graphic is courtesy of the Business Journal, and we did receive some limited approval from the organization to use this. And with that said, I am open for any questions. It's still a work in progress. These processes, I have to, Melissa did very kindly remind me that the time frame that we are on is not unusual for this type of a process. Sometimes I tend to be a little hard on myself and say, I gotta get it done, I gotta get it done. But what I want to do is I don't want to get it done so fast where we don't have a quality work product. Right. We want this to be quality because this is going to be long-standing for our agency. So I am open for any questions.
Absolutely great. Regina? Oh, is that from before? Okay, I'm sorry.
Any questions?
Dave?
As usual, you do an outstanding job, Adrian. I tell you, the quality just looks very high.
Thank you.
And good job.
I agree. I think the silence of no questions speaks volumes.
Yeah, you covered everything. Yeah, the team has. Team.
It's a team, exactly.
I did notice that I wasn't listed as the chair. We should probably change that because that's.
Oh, yes. Okay. We will do that.
Any public comment on this great vision that we have in Madera County? I don't see any, so
Okay.
Now let's put it.
you want us to adopt?
No action is.
Just update?
This is just an update, no actions required. But I do want to report to the board that this team's goal is to bring this back in a finalized form no later than March of 2019.
Yeah, I wanted to comment too further on the importance of this, and that is that no group, entity, team, anybody can move in a great direction together unless they know the plan. And we have come together, we have made a plan, we have implemented the plan, we're evaluating the plan, we're doing it right. This has made Madera County very successful, and it's not gone without attention on the state level. Many of my colleagues throughout the state of California have come to myself, to Brett, our other colleagues at some of these statewide meetings, even national meetings, and said, how in the world are you guys doing this? And the answer is very simple. We've come together and we've made a plan, and we're on the same page. We're pulling together like a good team of horses, if you want to use that analogy.
Yes.
And
Keen period.
It'd be like there's a little joke I remember. I'll just be quick on this little joke, but there was a man and a wife, and they were on this wagon pulling down the road together, and she looked down at those horses and she said, "I wish we could pull together like that team of horses." And he said, "Well, I guess we could if there was but one tongue between us." But anyway, that's an old joke.
Well, I
Still
think-
relevant today.
Still relevant.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you,
job.
board.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
I
CA.
think,
for
Come
your-
all
I think there's
pulling
one more.
together here.
I think there's one more.
Oh, Rob, I'm sorry.
There you go. No, I just, David's comment, caused me to want to make a comment. It's really good that the rest of the state and all these other counties recognize what we're doing, but I think the important thing is the county of Madera, the residents.
Yes.
Know that that's going to be the key thing. I think that's going to be the telltale to find out if we've got a really good plan and to really communicate that, to our citizens.
Right.
And let them, know that we are leading and we've got the mechanism set to lead the charge.
It'd be a
Thank you.
Good item to put on the on-the-road meetings next year at each community, so we can talk about that too and get input from the public. So, Mr. Chairman? Okay, item 7B.
7B, County Administration Department, General Services Division, and Madera County Library, Madera Library Improvements. 1, discussion of proposed temporary changes to Madera Library's operating hours during project construction. 2, discussion and consideration of entering into an agreement with Innovation Commercial Flooring, Inc. in the amount of $57,500 for flooring services at the Madera Library for fiscal year 2018-19 and authorize the chairman to sign. 3, discussion and consideration of approval of transfer appropriations number 18-058 in the amount of $24,000 transfer from Library Administration Company Group Insurance to Operating Transfer Out Capital Project for fiscal year 2018-19. 4, discussion and consideration of approval of receipt of unanticipated revenue number 18-060 in the amount of $59,000 derived from the Madera Library Operating Transfers in Capital Project to be appropriated buildings and improvements for multiple fiscal years. 4 votes required.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Maria Miranda with General Services, here with Jorge Mendoza, our project manager, and Patrick Fitzgerald, our county librarian. Before you today for consideration are budget adjustments and a contract with Innovation Commercial Flooring, Inc. for flooring services related to the Madera County Library Tenant Improvement Project. Back in June, your board appropriated funds for the project, which includes a revamped, more spacious children's area, new information and reference desk, knocking down the partition between the reference desk and the children's area, and new paint and flooring throughout the entire facility. The project is funded with a portion of the City of Madera annual contribution for operations, as well as library budget savings. In November, bidding for the project closed, and the lowest responsive and responsible bidders were Innovation Commercial Flooring for flooring services in the amount of $57,500, Ciotos Construction for painting services in the amount of $14,000, and Economy Movers for moving services in the amount of $33,235.
So in order to be efficient with the construction work and minimize the impact to the operations of the jail, of the library, sorry. I've been working in a lot of
Once
jail
you come in and
projects.
read, you're locked in there, huh? Patrick, you run a tight ship over there.
Minimize the impact to the library. We have to break up the work into 3 phases. Phase 1, it's the adult nonfiction biography and reference section. That takes approximately 35 days to construct or to build out. Phase 2 is the children's area, reception area, and computers, and that's going to take approximately 51 days. Phase 3 is the adult fiction.
61?
51.
51.
Correct. Adult fiction and young adult is the last phase, and again, that's approximately 35 days. All in all, it's 120 days to construct. Originally, the contractor offered to close down the library for a month, and it'll be done in a month, but obviously we know that that's not going to be possible. So this phasing plan allows the construction to progress and allow the library to stay open.
And you guys already seen the renditions, but we included them once again just as a reminder. So we have the new children's area here, the new reference desk and activity area in the children's area, and the new reading corner and media corner in the children's area. As Jorge mentioned, we do want to look at adjusting library hours during construction to ensure that the work is done quickly and efficiently and reduce interruptions to the library patrons. So I'll turn it over to Patrick to talk a little bit more about that.
Thank you. So this is obviously going to be an enormous interruption. One option was to close the library down completely. That was something that I absolutely had no wish to do from the beginning. And even though they said maybe they could do it in a month, I really didn't believe them, just because things never get done in the amount of time that, so, you know, I'm starting to wonder, like, are we going to be down 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks? So what we decided to look at was, you know, a modified hours for the library. What it's going to do is allow them to get nearly but not quite an 8-hour shift in the morning and the very beginning of the afternoon, have us open a little bit later, stay open a little bit later, and then continue to be open all of the days that we're currently open. But like I said, it would be modified in nature. I wanted to remember to mention that the county, we will meet our requirement to engage and meet with bargaining units over the impact on staff schedules, and we're beginning that process this week. So what we were looking at was moving our Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday hours, opening up at 1. They are supposed to, they're allowed in there till about 1, right, but clean up the last, they're supposed to be kind of cleaning up the last hour, half hour, getting it so that, you know, it's reasonable for the public to be in there at that time. We would open our doors to the public at 1, stay open until 7. On a Friday, stay open a couple hours later until 5 rather than 3. And we're looking at maintaining the same schedule on a Saturday.
Just to point out, like Patrick said, the last half hour of the work day for the contractor, it's supposed to it's meant to be for cleanup, just to make sure that it's all cleaned up, ready for the patrons to use the library.
Okay. Any questions? Mr. Frazier?
One you just said right now, Patrick, you had said on Friday they'd be staying open a couple hours later. You mean closing a couple hours earlier? Or should this all be reversed? 1 to 7 on Friday and 1 to 5 on?
No, on Fridays we've been closing at 3 on
Oh, okay,
Friday.
so it'll be,
Yeah, so we
okay,
actually
okay.
would be open a couple hours
close
later on
already at
Friday.
3.
Okay, so Friday currently is already at 3. Okay, so that's fine. I just,
Being open 1 to 3
I was
on
doing
Friday
it,
seemed pretty
I thought it was in relation to the 7, and so, okay. Then other than that, one, I think it's a fantastic project. And, you know, it really shows what the amount that the city had agreed to. Have we gone over and given this presentation to them to show, and I think if we already did before, we may want to again with the new leadership that's over there, so that they understand what that's really paying for, that there is a benefit to the city residents, that it's important that we have that partnership with the library and the things that we can do when we are, and that they get credit to some extent for you know, the money that they put into it. I think it's important. So just to kind of re-up them and then let people there know that it's going to be, you know, different hours and stuff like that.
We did so in the summer, I think it was, right? And we can go back and update
They got
them.
new councilmen, three of them. Right?
New
Three,
folks.
yeah,
So
and
it'd be
yeah,
really
and-
good
or
afterwards.
2 new ones, and I think it's important so that they know if they're getting questions, why is it closed at these times, that they have those answers would be good.
Absolutely. And, you know, from the beginning, when they decided to appropriate us, you know, some funds, I thought it was really important that they can see something tangible that their money provided.
Right.
So, yeah, I'd love to go back and tell the new folks.
Not just some overtime hours or something. But, you know.
Supervisor Poitras.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Patrick, I was, first of all, I think it's a great project, but what I was going to ask you, I was looking through these operating hours and even the current hours, and 11 to 6 and 11 to 3 and 11 to 3. In your professional opinion, are these hours sufficient to serve the public here in the city of Madera?
Our current hours of operation? Is that what we're
Yes.
Going with? It's a little slimmer than I've seen other places.
That's very diplomatic. Okay. Yeah, okay, because I'm looking at this, I'm going 4 hours on Friday, 4 hours on Saturday, we open at 11, and it just seems like, knowing families and kids programs and stuff like that, and library hours, I'm thinking, something that we can look at down the road is, I'm sure there's things that open up at 9 a.m. that would open up a lot more opportunities, especially for a city of 70,000 people. It seems, in probably our general service area is another 20,000. So anyway, just throwing that out there.
Are you talking about like Saturdays?
Well,
during the
potentially
week?
Saturdays, but during the week. Yeah. And then I see it closes at 3 on Fridays. So it just seems like it's, very slim.
I
So-
could see it Saturdays, being open earlier, and we'll see on Friday, maybe you can keep a tally on that Friday closing at 5 to see who came in from 3 to 5,
Absolutely.
It'd be a good way to judge that,
Well, even the earlier hours, not everybody, that has small kids take their kids the first 5 or Head Start or something like that. Many times there could be all kinds of groups and homeschoolers and so forth that, need something earlier than 11 o'clock, so.
Can you print that schedule in the Madera Tribune too? It'd be really good.
Plan to do, right? Yep.
You want to reach out to the PIT team and have them assist us in getting the word out,
We
for
got
sure.
the dates and stuff. Okay, Supervisor Rogers.
Yeah, I think some of my questions were answered, but I was wondering, are they going to seal off areas as they, in other words, like plastic, make it seal off while they work on that area and then move to another? How are they going to do this? Compartmentalize it, or?
Yeah, so we're going to delineate them with caution tape and orange cones or the delineators.
Yeah.
It's going to be, there's not going to be much dust per se.
Right.
But there will be delineation, so prevent people from going into the construction areas.
Yeah, because they're going to be wet paint.
Correct.
Okay,
And
Supervisor
as
Rodriguez.
far as painting, they're going to roll it on to minimize any overspray
Oh, okay.
or fumes for that
Yeah,
matter.
that, because spray creates dust,
Correct.
guaranteed.
No, we talked to the,
Airless or not, it does create dust.
correct.
Supervisor Rodriguez.
Put this schedule together, did you consult the construction crews? Pretty sure you did.
Say that again?
As far as the hours, there's no perfect. There's no perfect schedule here. You're trying to do what you can with the time element there, so I congratulate you trying to work under a difficult situation here, but you're doing the best you can. It's a great project, and not only are you going to do the best you can and work with the crews and also work with the people that use the library in the morning and afternoon, and maybe as time goes on, and you see maybe you can deviate or change the schedule to correct some of the problems that we might have, hopefully not, but if we have problems, then perhaps you could deviate some of the schedules. We'll leave that up to your director. Thank you.
Thanks. It's definitely a compromise schedule, for sure.
it is.
Yep.
The last question Supervisor Poitras.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear, my comments had nothing to do with the construction time. That's just a short period. I'm talking about general operations down the road.
General, yeah.
Just want to make that clear. All right, thank you.
The moving service is 33,000. Is that just taking stuff out and then putting it back, taking and moving it here and there?
Yeah, so it's
Storing it.
actually, because it's a phased approach. Actually, this was, we got 3 bids for moving services. This was the lowest. The second one came in at 89,000.
Gee.
And the third one came in at 125,000, believe it or not. It is very involved because it's a matter of packing the phase 1, storing it in the Galloway room, and then putting it back in phase 1. Now it's taking phase 2 and putting it back in phase 3. So it's a very reasonable price.
Is it?
Yeah.
Patrick, you okay with that, or?
I don't have the context to tell you whether that's a lot or a little for the amount of work, but it is going to be a bear of a project because it's really going to involve them coming back 3 different times, right, over 3 different periods of time and doing almost
They'll
like
have to
3
put
different
stuff back
projects.
like it wasn't clean.
Well, correct. And then because you have to keep the sections organized and categorized, that's the way they took
Yeah.
them out. So it's very involved.
Yeah, it would be.
Okay, public comment on this great project of the library. Seeing none, what's your pleasure, board?
Move to approve.
Second. Got a second from Max. Roll call, please.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Great job. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, huh? 7C.
7C, Board of Supervisors Department, discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution declaring a shelter crisis in Madera County pursuant to SB 850 and authorized participation in the Homeless Emergency Aid Program.
Good morning, Chairman and Supervisor of the Board. My name is Anthony Dillon, Chief Staff for Mr. Poitras. So today I'm coming for a resolution to approve, I guess just a declaration saying that, unfortunately, even if, we had every single, we have, we X amount of homeless people, there's no way we're able to house every single person at the moment. This will open up opportunities for us to apply for it's called the HEAP grant, the Homeless Emergency Aid Program. So with that, I have the thing. So with that right now, California is at the forefront of homelessness problems. So 1 out of every 4 homeless individual lives in California right now. So with housing and affordability, Prop 45, all of these things that happened, we've made a bed and I guess we're laying in it. So with that, the state has decided to actually award half a billion dollars, $500 million of a block grant to help kind of work for just short-term emergency programming right now. So this is a one-time, immediate, and it's also flexible funding, which has been really nice. But this is going to be in accordance with a lot of other things that are going on. If you guys saw in this last election, the voters did vote for Prop 2 and Prop 3, which help with behavioral health and also different homelessness things right there. So we're hoping that this is going to be the, I guess the catalyst to get us going and then actually be able to better serve and see less homeless people overall in Madera County. So right now, we are going to be going through the continuum of care. So we are with the Fresno Madera continuum of care. There are 43 of them across the state with the 11 largest cities. They're kind of have their own homelessness program. So like I said, with that $500,000, we do have some part of that. That's going to be over here where we're going to be eligible for Part A and B, which equals $350 million. So with that, it actually is formulaic. So when Ms. Weisner was talking about that point in time count, that is so important for us to have because that directly affects how much money and funds that the Fresno Madera Continuum of Care is. So I do hope that if anybody is available for that time, we'd love to have you. We are hoping to get better at reaching out to the mountain community and as well as Chowchilla because unfortunately it's hard during the winter time to find homeless individuals in Oakhurst or North Fork, but they're there. So we're trying to find better ways of reaching that. But like I said, that's going to directly be based off, so we're going to get money based off of the point in time count and also the homeless populations. So like I said, it's going to be formulaic to the continuum of care. They're going to receive it. Then the Fresno Department of Social Services will be the one actually doling out the money and allocating it. So there will be RFPs for projects coming in February. So right now it's kind of backwards, kind of doesn't make too much sense, but they're going to give out the money and then we're going to put the plans in, and then they're going to base it off of the collaboration we're having.
What's our share of that money?
Exactly. Our share of the money is going to be.
Share.
Yeah, so there's $14 million coming into the Fresno Madera Continuum of Care, with 3 of those for sure going to Fresno. So I guess $11 million are on the table right now. So that's exciting for us. So that's why we wanted to make sure that we had a good plan and we're coordinating. And that's actually where we've been doing. So like I said, originally it's supposed to be 2 rounds, where the first round is all the applications that are received. And our application was just sent in actually the 12th. So that's good. But round 2 really is the money that isn't spent for round 1 will just that little mixture will just go back to round two. They're foreseeing that there won't be any money for round two because there's quite a few groups that have been kind of throwing out their plans and have been applying. So for eligibility, that was something that we were very, very proud of. I'm very proud of that. There's been a lot of collaboration since I believe it's been 2 years ago now, or a year and a half more, where we have said, we are going to be working intergovernmentally to kind of start dealing with these issues. Obviously, there are still a few problems that are going on, but as you see the change and as you see the coordination has been great. So since then, these past few months, we've had several meetings. We've had, behavioral health, the Sheriff's Department, Social Services, Health Department, our Grants Department was there, CAPMC, City of Madera Police, Clearview Outreach, Valley West. So we've had, as we try to get as many players as we can from all different facets of our community to kind of just be working on a plan together. So right now we're going to be meeting actually tomorrow and kind of go over the finalization of what we want to do. Some of the things that we are thinking about right now are, so one of the biggest things is we're hoping to have a law enforcement diversion center up in Oakhurst to help with the sheriff. So, it's kind of almost like a sobering center where, instead of having to actually have the sheriffs bring, if someone is intoxicated with drugs or alcohol, instead of having to bring them down to Madera County, there'd actually be a place for them to be able to sober up there and then also provide them services, give them, drug and alcohol, abuse, work or counseling, things of that sort. So that's, I'm really excited for that and just to kind of see, making sure our public safety is involved in this process with homelessness. Also, we want to see coordinated entry with the Madera Rescue Mission. They already do so much for our community. They have 144 beds that are able to reach, and a lot of times they aren't always full. So we're going to be able to have some dedicated beds for those who want to have who need short term. Yes, part of the program. So we'd be able to help fund some of that where that's short term housing. So if somebody is homeless and we want to help. The whole point of this is to make sure that people are able to quickly get out of their situation. So pretend, we find out that somebody is homeless, they may have missed their last, their PG&E or they got kicked out of their house, but, it's a $600, little thing. We're hoping to find a way that we can quickly house them for a little bit and then find alternative housing for them, and then make sure that they're getting involved in the different programs to be supported on that. Also, want to also work on creating a database. So the thing is, unfortunately, we haven't done the best job of communicating. We've all been siloed up in regards to. So the sheriff isn't necessarily communicating with the police department in regards to who they interact with the homeless individuals. And also, we're hoping to actually use our GIS service our new GIS service to actually be able to better track and know where people are. Because unfortunately. Our big thing is to get people out, out of the river, and which is just a health risk for a lot of individuals, and can kind of and also be able to better just service individuals to know what programs they have. So with that, we also are hoping to get outreach coordinators for the Madera, Oakhurst, and Chowchilla area. That's actually been proven very helpful, where we were able to identify individuals who have either had that experience of being homelessness or are very well knowledgeable on that. We'll be able to have them there as well as at the Rescue Mission, where that's almost going to be the hub. That's going to be we're hoping to kind of be close to the one-stop shop where they could go there, interact, and and actually help them get in front of the other individuals who they need, whether it be social services, behavioral health, things of that sort. So we're hoping to kind of see a bigger role with the Rescue Mission so that they can kind of be that place. Obviously, their footprint is they're kind of grown out to the farthest point, but luckily we do have some room for office workers, for office space to be able to allow somebody to be in there to start interacting with them. So in addition with that, it's been very nice where. We've had quite a few meetings, several meetings, different places. Also with the Department of Behavioral Health this past week. Glenn and I are actually able to be a part of the kind of just looking at their plan, because in the future we do need to start seeing a full strategic growth plan for our homelessness. That'll really help us. I know that Prop 2, No Place Like Home, they're hoping to see a 56 unit housing unit for permanent supportive housing, and also and it's going to be for individuals who have mental health conditions and who need a little bit more care in that. We're excited for that. We're excited for we've been working as I need to thank for sure. Sorry, Elizabeth. Elizabeth has been so helpful. she's been the reason why we've been able to keep on moving forward. And Maddie at CAPMC, they've been coordinating, our countywide homelessness task force, things of that sort. And without them, we wouldn't even be where we are now.
Have you talked to the two tribes on their council to get anybody on there on your committee?
We have not, but I will definitely make sure that we happen. So we'll make sure to bring them in.
A bunch of them that's
Yeah.
homeless
Perfect.
there.
Perfect. So yeah, we'll make sure to bring them into
Ready, Brett,
this
to
fold
ask a
with that.
question?
Yeah, kind of on the part with the Rescue Commission and some of the legislation there was that if it was faith-based, that would take it out of our amount of beds. Where did I had heard that somewhere, where like you couldn't force into the drug and alcohol.
So I don't know if Elizabeth maybe have answers. Okay, Elizabeth answers, because I have a thought, but I don't want to speak out of me, just a thought.
I just want to make sure that we have the ability, or if there's some workaround to that, or how do we make sure that we're doing it the right way?
There is a workaround for
Okay.
that, and there is another faith-based group that is planning on applying. It's Clearview Outreach, and the way it will work with this funding source is they are who they are, and they have a faith. They invite people to come and have housing. They don't require them to attend their meetings.
Okay.
And so they do attend their meetings just because they make they have a relationship, and they learn to trust them, and so it works.
So it's a faith-based organization that doesn't just say you have to be this faith to come in, is that? That's
Right,
correct?
there's no
Okay.
requirement, it just come, if you need help, we'll help you, and these are the times of our services, you're welcome to join us.
Perfect.
And so that works.
And that's an important.
Elizabeth?
That's an important part. of
Yeah, it really
but
is.
it
Have
needs to
you-
be-
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's an important part to get people, permanently helped, or can be. But I just wanted to make sure that, I know that had come up, or it was part of the legislation, and I wanted to make sure that we had vetted that and can move forward that way. So good, thank you.
Yeah, have you worked with any of the tribes, the councils or anything?
I have not, but I wrote it down, and we will be reaching out to them.
Good. I can give you the names of the contacts with the chairmans of it too, if you need it. Okay? Thank you. Okay, so we need that resolution, right?
Yeah, so that resolution, so one of the nice things about having that declaration, it does allow us to cut through a lot of regulatory red tape in that aspect. So that's why, because this is emergency, sometimes, there are some counties or I guess jurisdictions that are, they need something quick, to be able to have housing. So it actually is able to, especially with zoning issues. Like I said, this is a 3-year, the expectation that you spend all this money by June 30th, 2021. So with this, I think we should be receiving money. I mean, if this resolution does come in, we should be receiving money, I believe, by I think like February, but don't.
Yeah.
But they're going to be throwing the money in there. But then obviously the RFPs are going to be coming in, and that's when I'll be coming back with actual solid plan of showing you guys what exactly is going to be in there. This is merely talking about the resolution where we're saying. Because here's an unfortunate thing. We have 331 homeless people that we say that are in Madera County. I think it's considerably more, but that's through the point in time count. We only have 144 beds to house these people, so we simply just do not have that ability to house everybody, because that's the big thing for California is housing first. They don't really, that's their biggest priority, and that's kind of how they're now said, okay, well, if you want to get funds, this is the approach that you need to go into.
Yeah, and regardless of whether or not we get funds, this is a crisis.
We need to take care of it.
If we're asking to declare a crisis, knowing that there would be 190 people that we couldn't house even if they wanted it or what to improve their situation, we can't meet that by a long shot. So I think it absolutely qualifies as a crisis.
Anybody from the public have anything in this? Seeing none, what's your pleasure, board?
Yeah, I move to approve.
Second.
First and second. Roll call, please.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
It was Rogers.
Oh, Supervisor Rogers, my apologies.
Yeah.
Supervisor
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Week's Powerball drawing. Now, I want
$10.
Hopefully you won.
Got 10 from Rogers and 10 from Max today.
Did you win?
Well, I'll tell you what, Max might be able to pay at least 10,000, depending on
Powerball.
Yeah.
What a Powerball drawing.
Okay. We'll take a couple minutes. I got to use it too, so. Got 10 minutes to get this done. We go eat lunch. 7E.
7E,
Madam.
Public Works Department, Engineering Services Division, discussion and consideration of entering into an amendment number MCC number 9719A-C-2015 with Caglia Environmental LLC for solid waste and recyclable materials collection franchise and authorize the chairman to sign.
Turn it on. Oh,
Me?
okay.
Hello? Yeah,
Uh,
it's just low.
If,
Good.
If the owners of these two companies, Cagley and Madco, if they, if we get this passed or what have you, would you please sign the contract before you run off? My notes.
Yes. They are aware.
Okay, you may proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ahmad Al-Kat, Public Works Director. With me here is Mr. John Carlton with HDR, our solid waste management consultant, and Mr. Scott Cross with County Council. This item here, on November 2012, your board entered into an agreement with Cagley Environmental for solid waste and recyclable materials collection franchise. And that agreement was amended by your board on December 2nd, 2015. This restated and amended agreement addresses collection, operational issues, and contract management items, some of which were addressed in the internal audit report from the Auditor Controller earlier this year. Some of the notable amendments include the following. defining commercial organics collection and marketing services in compliance with AB 1826, listing all pricing schedules for all services provided by the franchisee, including special services and new services not covered in the current agreement. Beginning in 2019 and each fiscal year for the remainder of the contract term, the franchisee must submit audited financial statements rather than reviewed financial statements as per the existing contract to the county auditor controller. This amendment provides an additional but optional 5-year renewal term to the end of the contract that may be exercised by your board at your sole discretion, and which would cover the years from 2032 to 2037 if exercised. This extends the county's termination for convenience fee for 5 years to cover the remaining current term of the agreement and fixes the convenience termination fee at the current Tier 7 amount. The annual rate adjustment authorized for customers' rate due to the fuel component and variable component of the rates in accordance with the defined index was restricted to only being a positive rate adjustment with the previous agreement in 2015. And if the index was negative, the rates would remain the same and not have to be decreased. This agreement requires customer rates to be decreased whenever the applicable index decreases and results in decreases to the fuel and variable components of the rates. This agreement will limit the types of customer fees that may be increased as a result of increased tipping fees at the Fairmead landfill station. Also, additional revisions for general contract clarification and cleanup items have also been made. So, in conclusion, in this Red Rock review of 2018 contract amendments, the internal audit findings asserts that Cagley Environmental did not comply with the financial terms of the contracts with respect to the rate decreases. The Public Works Department formally responded to the assertion on June 7th of this year, disagreeing with this finding. As noted in the responses, the intent of the negotiations that led to the 2015 amendment were to remove the potential reduction in CPI and fuel indices from the rate adjustment calculations, including those for July 2015. So today, if your board could reaffirm the understanding of the 2015 contract amendments, confirming that no overbilling of customers took place in 2015 due to the negative CPI and fuel indices. This could be done in the motion to approve the new agreements, indicating the understanding that the 2015 contract amendments approved the rate effective as of July 1st, 2015. And with this, we are here to take your questions.
So that December 2nd, 2015 item that you brought to this board, right? We changed the amendment, made that amendment that didn't decrease the CPIs.
Correct.
Yeah, that was, I think you didn't do it, but the people pulled the wool over our board's eyes, I think, that day. But it's done, and we can't go back. But before, a few board members got any questions. You got any questions, first board members?
So it was December 15th, 2015.
Second, December 2nd.
December 2nd, yeah.
That brought that contract, okay. But so in that contract, it removed that.
Correct.
That it couldn't
We
go
held
down.
the CPI steady if it goes down, the indices.
Okay, and so by contract, it was agreed to that, so when it went down and it stayed the same, That was allowed by the contract.
By that
By the amendment,
amendment
yes.
that we put in there.
I just wanted to clarify that, so
Okay.
that it was legal to do so.
Well, the intent of that amendment was that, and everybody, and we brought it to your board
Right.
with that as, part of the
Go
motion.
back and listen to it and see if you said that, though.
It was a consent item, sir.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. You
Yeah.
pulled the wool over our eyes. So that's the way I look at it, but Dave.
Yeah, I don't see it that way. I feel that this was as a result of a transition time that we were requesting them to serve high-density areas, mandatory collection.
Correct.
And that, we didn't go forward after Caglia Environmental and the Red Rock purchased large amounts of equipment to serve that process.
Right.
We were kind of caught in a situation where we had pushed them, basically, to do that, pushed them hard to do it, time-wise. And as a result of them not doing that, they incurred quite a large expense. Instead of coming after us for that expense, said, is there a way we could reduce that expense over time? And we agreed to that because it was basically partly our fault that happened. I mean, mainly our fault. They had nothing to do with the policy on that end of it.
I'm not blaming Cagley at all.
No, I know that. I'm just stating what happened.
Okay.
So we were trying to make up for that shortfall. And I want to point something else out here, too. To me, the bottom line is the customer, the constituent. The bottom line is the constituent. When Red Rock took charge of our solid waste industry from the day they arrived, they came with a lower rate to our customers for 5 years. 5 years before, and I say a lower rate for 5 years. We just now arrived at a rate commensurate with what they were paying before, 5 years later. That rate would have continued to increase under the previous provider and would have been beyond the arrival rate now. In other words, what I'm saying is our customers are still benefiting. Our customers are still benefiting from the low rate that has been provided by Red Rock and our service, and that's the bottom line to me. And, our intent was to do exactly what was done. There was no non-compliance here. To use the word non-compliance is misleading, I think, in this, because the intent was followed to the letter. We amended to make sure that happened correctly. So I think we need to clarify that in today's language and resolution and make it clear to the public that the law has been followed here, that the customers have been benefited all along, and they continue to be benefited by the fact that Red Rock is providing that service. Thank you.
Okay, no more questions, you guys. Todd, would you mind coming up and seeing what you guys, I know we've been meeting, Brett and I and the other committee members back and forth on this. I want to make sure that we got everything covered before we vote on this. So, good morning, nice tie too.
Auditor Controller. I think Ahmad, first of all, I'd like to congratulate Ahmad and his team, because with this new revision that you're considering today, it does address all of the audit issues as far as the contract going forward. And it is a benefit to the people. He's done a good job with that. They've been very attentive and worked with us very, very well.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah, the question, there's two basic questions. The first one, and the one that you can resolve today very quickly, is what was the effective date of the Red Rock amendment? It's not stated in the contract. So is it the date of signature? Is it July 1? If it's July 1, and that was your intent, that's fine. That makes a large portion of the issue go away. And so that is really your first question to answer. What date is the effective date? I believe that the negotiating parties at the time did intend that July 1 was the effective date. Why? Because that is the date that the fuel index declined. All right, the fuel index declined effective July 1.
Not December.
And negotiations started sometime in that area. By the time that was negotiated and came to your board, it was December. All right? Without a date being stated in the contract, usually the effective date of a contract is the date that you approve it. If that was not your intent, then you can correct that, and that part of the problem goes away. So that's
Well, maybe
That's
to stop
not-
all the going back and forth, maybe that's what we ought to consider when we do this.
well, I think that would clear up
Let's clear it up. I mean, I don't want to go back and forth. It's not,
Before we do that,
not
was
our
that,
intent.
was that the intent?
Yes, Supervisor Frazier, everybody that was on the table, that was our intent. And when the indices dropped, we were still, I mean, this item which went to your board on December 2nd was actually parked at agenda setting since, I would say, March or February of 2015. But we are still, every day, there's new things that come in. But the general understanding from the negotiating the amendment for Red Rock to recoup what the county's decision may or may not have went forward that affected them is, so we kept changing, even typos we kept changing. It was a work with everybody here at the table and my predecessor as well and others, and of course Red Rock is on the table. Our intent is we don't want to drop coming July 1st, and it was agreed. This could have came to your board even before July, but for matters outside of my control, I would say, some reorganization.
Well, there was somebody else in charge.
Even kicking ahead the recycling program at Madera County that consumed most of our time. So when the dust settled and things are moving forward, actually, we brought it up to your attention.
I
I'm
think
sure
one of the
we
other
learned
things.
our lesson, definitely, but the intent was most definitely, from my perspective and everybody here, is July 1st retro.
Okay,
So rates prior to July 1st.
Okay, so we can change that language, right?
Yeah,
County
during the
Council?
motion, we can do that.
With this motion, Supervisor.
Clarify.
Yes, the clarification is permissible today.
Okay, and then another thing, I think when that was all going on, John was still working, living back east, and, going back and forth, telephone or emails or whatever, when you're here like he is now, makes a big difference, I think. And in fact, I was ready to change people when you were back then. When you told me you're out here now, I was happy because I think you do a great job. But, I mean, I'd hate to try to be making these decisions back from New York or New Jersey, where the heck it was, when you're trying to do this, weekly and what have you. So a lot of things get lost, I mean, in the discussions like that. So I think our best bet today, you, I think, are sitting there agreeing that if when we make the motion, that we will clean that up.
Yes.
Get it all right now and get this done right and move forward. I don't want no pissing and going back and forth no more. I'm tired of it. It just really is. And it gets everybody upset and there's no reason for it.
Yeah,
I have
I
a
agree,
quick-
but actually with him in New Jersey and talking about trash, that gave me more comfort.
Dave?
Yeah.
I'm
can we
still a
take
New
this-
Jersey guy by some background.
County Council, can we take this all in one motion, D through?
No, I don't
We
think
have
we
to take
should.
them individually? Okay, so under which part will we do the amended
It's under 7E.
clarification?
70.
E. Okay,
It's the
so,
first one.
so if you're ready to hear a motion.
Or, no, any more public comment?
I would like to continue on one other item,
I'm
if I
sorry.
might.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, no,
Um,
I'm sorry.
That will solve a major part of the issue. In the auditor's opinion, the only items left were, and have not been addressed, are a couple of items, other discounts and stuff that decisions seem to have been made with some amount of arbitrary decision-making. The problem with that being unresolved at this point is what you are voting on today will set, these have to do with what the rates, certain rates are and were. Those rates were, it seems to us, arbitrarily increased and without any mention in any contract, no acquiescence of anybody whatsoever. By those higher rates are incorporated in the rate schedules that you're going to vote on today. And it will have an ongoing impact for the entire term of the contract. Ahmad and I have met on this and discussed it. I do not know as of this moment if there's any resolution to that or any further discussion of that. Ahmad and I met fairly late into the night last night on this issue, and it is still an issue for me. And I just want to clear that.
Is this the roll-off?
No, if
Yeah.
I can speak.
Go ahead.
What's your, they are, there's a list of issues that were in the internal audit report. Right. Everybody here is in receipt of the department's response, and there are some items that in October, basically there were some decisions made by the Public Works Director that I believe your office do not believe that the Public Works Director, as per the previous contract, which we are amending today to clarify, gives him or her the authority to give these new rates or new service levels that were not in the original contract. Now, we have a different opinion on that, and our responses show that in the internal report, but this amendment will clarify, give your board the only authority to make any changes in these contracts. The Public Works Director will not.
And I think that's what it's got to be.
I agree with you.
I don't think.
And I agree with you.
Whether it's you or the past or whatever.
Absolutely.
When you make a change of contract, it's got to be the board that makes those decisions. That's the bottom line.
Absolutely, and we support that 100%.
Okay.
And that is a protection for him. To put him in a position where he's making decisions on rates is really not fair to him.
No, it's not. It's not fair to anybody. We're got to do it. We got to get the information, and we got to broadcast it out to the public before we make these kind of decisions behind closed doors. It don't happen.
So one of the main differences in the issues that were brought in the internal audit, our response was, yes, we can't look at these old prices which are in the contract because we completely reinvented the level of service from 2 can service to 2 automated carts, for example. So everything that pertains to this 2 can service and those discounts you get really do not apply as of October 1st, 2015.
Right.
And with this, basically, we did correct the language, and Scott, jump in whenever you'd like. We did on item E, section.
It's 8.2D and E.
Correct.
8.2D and E in the landfill agreement, 8.2E and F in the transfer station agreement.
What do they say?
So the
Scott?
new language, it clarifies again. I think
Say
it
your
takes.
name first so people.
Yeah, sure.
understand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Scott Cross, Deputy County Counsel. So I'm reading from the transfer station agreement at page 31 of the red line, which was in the packet for today. The new language reads, the county's Public Works Director, his or her authorized designee, or any county employee who succeeds to the duties and responsibilities of the Public Works Director as authorized, is authorized to administer this service contract and act as the county's liaison with the company in connection with the transfer station operations services. And that person is defined as the contract administrator. The company understands and agrees that the contract administrator has only limited authority with respect to the administration and implementation of this service contract and cannot bind the county with respect to any service contract amendment or any waiver of the obligations of the company hereunder, except as otherwise expressly provided herein. And there are a couple of instances where it's expressly provided, but not with respect to approving rate changes or major changes. There are instances.
Now, Scott, is this added new now?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
much of that is added new. Not every word that I read is new, but
No,
much
but
of it
I mean
is.
the parts that important that says,
Well,
we
yes,
make that decision.
Taking some of that, clarifying again, and for contract administration purposes, that any major decisions, approval of rates is certainly a major decision that needs to come to the board.
Absolutely.
Frankly, it hadn't been happening throughout the history of the contract. You'll see now in these contracts, every single rate that could be charged from this day going forward is an exhibit to this agreement. So today, with any approval that you give, it's going to include approving those rates as of today going forward. If you look back at the other contracts, there were often many rates that weren't included in those contracts. And so there would be times where it would come up,
That
hey,
makes
there's a
them
truck at the landfill, it's got a
whether they're
mattress.
Legal or not. I think that's what they're trying to say.
That's what my.
Not
Right,
legal, but just.
But I think in all fairness, the auditor controller did what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to review the contract and look at the terms of the agreement and see if it's being complied with and the operations match with what the
Absolutely.
black and white letter says. But it doesn't always happen that way. I think it's fair to say that it doesn't always happen that way. The day-to-day operations, you get out there and something might be different and, okay, it doesn't, we haven't addressed it in the agreement perhaps. So there's a time as we come back every 2 or 3 years and we look at the operations, we look at the contract language, we see how the management's happening. We see how it's happening, out in the
We've
real
done that
world.
many times
and we
in
try
a
to
lot of different
modify the
contracts,
agreement to
so.
comply, so.
Okay. Dave, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I just wanted to point out that I'm sure that the reason a lot of that was happening is that services were in flux. And so we didn't have a concrete method to deal with that flux. And now we're going to have a change in an operational policy that changes that. And that's important because when we're in flux, somebody had to make a decision, and it wasn't always opportune to bring that to the Board of Supervisors. So now we have a different situation. Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and that's why this is being built in as policy. Now, my question would be, what do we do to clarify the ambiguity of the past moving forward? Is that done in the document?
As to the first item, I think that you were discussing earlier, I'll let, I don't know that
Yeah, the
Todd's
first
finished
item
his-
I'm clear on.
Well,
It's the
But I think
new.
it's important to address exactly what needs to happen, because with respect to the rate, again, the previous contract called for, if the CPI decreased, the rates were to decrease in July, or July 1st of every year. That rate decrease did not happen on July 1st, 2015. The contract amendment that authorized that was not approved by your board until December, 5 months later.
Right.
So the audit just basically has addressed what happens during that intervening 5 or 6 month period.
Right.
The rates, according to the contract, at that time should have been decreased, but they weren't. Because there was discussions going on between staff and the contractor about, well, the rates don't need to decrease, we're going to get to the board.
Right.
Ultimately, it didn't get to the board till December.
Right.
But it wasn't specifically addressed, it wasn't specifically brought to the board's attention at that time that
Absolutely.
your approval in December of 2015 would bless or authorize the rates that hadn't changed since July. So I think the record needs to be clarified.
Absolutely.
Today would be a
How are we
good
gonna
day to
clean
do it.
that up?
To clean that up and make it clear that the rates that were in effect from July 1st of 2015 until the board approved them in December were as they should have been.
Right.
That the board
Okay,
understood
Scott.
that the rates were going to remain at that level.
You're a lawyer, you're Regina.
Right.
How do we clean it up?
We'll make sure in the motion that it's included in that, but I think.
How do we clean it up? I mean,
Well, I
what do
think-
we do? We
I
give
think
that money back?
Stated
Do
in the
we-
motion.
No, I think at this.
May I interrupt? We have, Scott, I think is covering ground that we covered in the first part of, when I first came up here.
Right.
We have taken care of that issue.
Just make-
That is not the issue that I just brought up.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay,
So
so
what's the
that
issue
issue,
that you just brought up?
has been cleared up. And I would direct Scott and Ahmad to please address page 2 of the outline that I gave you yesterday. And those items are what we are still unresolved, and there's really been, they weren't resolved at the audit time, in the audit responses. They're still outstanding today. My only reason to bring those up is that those increases impact what they are going to vote on in the next few minutes. By them voting on those, it basically approves all of the rate increases that I don't think were authorized by Ahmad. They were just done, and we have never gotten a sufficient answer as to why or any reasoning whatsoever. I can share those with you. I just would like to see those done so that the public isn't paying over the term of the contract these higher rates, which have not been approved by anyone for the contract period, the 2015 contract period, having nothing to do with that date issue. That's a done deal. You guys will fix that. I'm pleased with that.
Yes.
So if you would address that issue, that is my only concern. The third item on the bottom line item on that is simply an increased amount. And once again, we have no response from Red Rock. We have no really answer to that $725,000 overcharge.
During that,
Go ahead. Yes, I'm sorry.
during that time, the ability to change those rates lied with the Public Works Director?
Yes, Supervisor, yes. To our understanding of the current contract, it gives the Public Works Director the more flexibility to approve rates or even create new service or new rates.
Okay,
Now,
hold
every
that
new
right
service
there.
and new
Hold that
rate.
thought. Hold that thought. Scott, did you hear what he just said?
I apologize, Mr. Chairman, I was.
Yeah, it's important.
Yes.
Okay, say it again, so
yeah.
Scott hears it and see if that's
Thank you.
correct.
Please jump in.
Okay, Brett?
Yeah.
The previous, the current contract, in our understanding, it does give the Public Works Director more flexibility or a certain flexibility to approve new rates or new service, not necessarily increase rates or what have you. These, most of what's in page 2, and I promise you, Todd, we will discuss this
No.
moving
we need to
forward.
Figure it out right now where you have that
We
right.
are.
I just want to hear what Scott says. Has
Yeah.
he got that right to do that? It's a contract read right now.
So the majority of his points were basically new services. They're not increased. I mean,
not
when you
increased
compare
rates.
when you compare a cost
get what
of
you're
service to the cost of the current service, but the service is completely different.
Apples to
that's not an
oranges.
increase. Basically, that's establishing a new rate, and that's what our response to the audit basically explained. And if it still need to be resolved further,
So with-
that's what I meant, is we will continue communicating.
So with the different times that there were different rates that were charged, those were approved through that process during that time?
Correct.
So it wasn't,
That's new information. So just so if I might clarify, so the 2% discount that Red Rock was providing to the customers that was retroactively reversed, you approved? Page 2 of my outline that I gave you yesterday.
Page 2, item 1, when I read this last night, we went back to our responses to the audit, and they are explained there. And basically, in October 1st, 2015, that's when the new services kicked in. Isn't that when we went through?
That would be fine, but the
Yeah,
2%
that's
was
when we went.
retroactive,
Yeah.
made retroactive and charged back to the beginning, the initial contract of 2013. And I just wanted to clarify, you said that you approved that, and I just want to clarify, you approved that?
Not me, myself, no.
John?
All right, so when the contract was bid, we bid out the Valley franchise in, that the contractor could be awarded 1, 2, or 3 of the zones. And if they were awarded all 3 of the zones, they would apply a discount that they bid. Red Rock bid 2%, that they would discount the rates. Also, I
They
think
got
if
all
there was.
3 of them?
All 3.
Okay.
So if, and they did for the services starting in 2012 up to this contract. What happened in 2015 was that a whole different level of service was offered. When we started implementing recycling, we wanted to get away from the steel, or little plastic 30-gallon cans and go to a cart. It was automated collection. That was both for recycling and solids. We didn't have that type of, thing. So there was a new level of service put in. There was no 2% discounts because it was just, they were proposing a new rate, period, for all three. They already had won all three
So
contracts.
that 2% deal kind of went away.
It just went away.
And the new rates come up with the new 2 carts.
That's right. So anything that had to do with discounts related to either mandatory or not, or the 1 or 3 zones went away because we were basically establishing a new level of service.
Right.
And I think, there was a provision in the contract that allowed the Public Works Director or contract administrator to approve a new service. Because new services were, being sort of identified from time to time.
This is the
was
flux
that.
I was talking about earlier, and, we were really getting apples to oranges.
Yeah, this was when we were looking at the partial mandatory, increasing the level. There was going to be a large capital expense to purchase all of these carts and get on to a different level of service.
Right.
So with those discounts going away was to help offset some of that large capital expense that wouldn't then go to the, is that correct?
It's a higher level of service. Basically, you improve the level of service that people were receiving. They got carts, they didn't have to buy their own cans, they had 1 cart for recycling, it was a single stream, so that was a nice thing. So you actually increased the level of service, and there was a little bit of a price hike compared to the lower level of service there. So I think it was more, you change the level of service, you improve the level of service, you rolled out recycling and the way recycling is done, across the country these days with the carts. And that was the price that was agreed to between the Public Works Department and Red Rock. So it was just establishing a new service that was authorized by the Public Works Director at that time.
And the Public Works Director at that time, under that contract, had the ability to make that determination?
That's what we're asking, Scott. That's the next thing I was going to ask.
Initially, yes. Initially, under the contract, yes, the Public Works Director did have that. Now, technically, I probably think it would have been better if ultimately it would have gone to the board. Again,
Yeah.
we can't hold off the contractor on providing that service for a week or a month to get to your board necessarily. So
But they
initial
still should have brought it-
approval
just
can
like
be
this one,
made.
they brought December the 2nd, should have been done in July. They still could have brought it to us.
They should have ultimately
And let us
brought it to
look at
you,
it.
correct.
Right.
And again, what I want to clarify for the board today is on the proposed agreements in the board packet here for all 4 items, including the AMADCO agreement, it lists every level of service that they currently provide and every rate and every fee that they charge. Now, if in the future there is a request for a different level of service,
Right. And
again,
they'll bring them
through that
to
normal
board.
process, it could initially go through Ahmad or that department and say, he could say, okay, good, but
They bid it out, but it has to come here
it's going to
for
go
final
back on the
approval.
next potential board meeting, it might be a month later or so, but
And then Todd, to understand yours, so the 2%, is that what is
Well,
under?
let me give you the history. At the time the 2015 amendment was made, and it is not mentioned anywhere in the contract, it is not mentioned in any memoranda, or discussions that I've had with anybody. The customers received a 2% discount because you awarded them basically the entire county. They agreed to that. That provision was taken out for reasons we don't know in 2015. At that time, you also authorized a decrease in the tipping fees at the dump, a 4% decrease. That decrease was never implemented and never given to the people. Okay? So those 2 issues are to me, are outstanding. The third issue that's outstanding.
Before we go, one more.
Yes.
What's the explanation
yes.
on that?
So I guess,
I
Mr.
need to
Chairman.
know. I don't want to keep, I'll get each one at a time.
Yeah.
I'm just to clarify, I'm just going to read verbatim from the internal audit, our response.
No, I want to know
Because it answers the
how that
question.
happened.
It answers, what happened is exactly in the response, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
Do you agree with that, Scott and John?
Let me read and see.
I agree with this.
Yeah.
I agree with those sentiments.
Okay.
let him read it into the record, I think
Yeah,
is
and
my
then-
suggestion.
So this is finding number 2 from the internal audit, and the summary of the finding is basically the county eliminated the required 2% zone discounts 4% tipping fee reduction, and subsequent rate changes when the new Zone 1, 2, and 3 refuse and recyclable rates were introduced. So our response is the Public Works Department disagrees with this finding. The franchise agreement with Caglia provided rates for hand can, refuse, and recycling services on a non-mandatory basis. The Public Works Department approved a new rate structure for automated refuse and recycling services on a non-mandatory basis as part of the changes described in the above section of this finding. And then furthermore, I gave Mr. Miller is just an update before he finalized his report, just where we are. So Public Works Department requested that any time a new service rate is established or any rates are adjusted, Red Rock will submit to Public Works Department a complete list of all rates associated with the services offered for the Public Works Department's review and approval. And a step further is we brought all these in this contract, and basically, here are all the services, this is what you pay, there's no more guessing, basically. But there is a chance that in the solid waste business, a new issue would come, a new waste stream would come.
We agree.
They would need.
We all agree to that.
And
But
then
what-
I will definitely.
Okay, when we lowered those tipping fees,
Yes.
4%, and you wiped them out with that, with your decision. Right there, you just read.
No.
Wipe them out.
I don't know.
We
Okay.
required a new, we
Repeat your
required a
question.
new service. It was completely new.
It's a completely different service, sir.
Yeah.
It took
But
into, it
did
took
we
into
change our tipping fees?
consideration.
Did we change our tipping fees?
October? Well, this 4% tipping fee reduction was 2015, 2013.
Roger Cardoza, Chief Internal Auditor. The 4% tipping fee decrease took place in July of 2013. It was not eliminated until October 2015.
With the new service.
With the new
Right.
service.
Correct.
Well,
The new
correct.
service
Mm.
anticipated
Took into account.
all changes at that time. So the idea is it didn't wipe out reductions, it basically took into consideration the landfill tipping fees at that time, the services that were being offered at that time. So it was a new service that took into consideration the factors
So
in
that
place.
October
It's part of the
15 was
equation.
when we started the two-cart
That's
service?
right, yes. And so it didn't not reflect it, it was just a new price. It was a new service that.
Which we agreed to. It was the issue is, prior to that contract, that 4%
Should have
came
been-
about in 13 and was never implemented. It was never refunded, and under the
true?
terms of the contract in force at that time, it was never implemented.
Is that true, John and Ahmad?
I would have to check our records, Mr. Chairman. I can't answer to that. All I know is the prices on October of 2015, they took into consideration, part of the equation is the tipping fee. So whether it was lowered or increased, the current tipping fee, it is taken into consideration for the new rate, the new service that was offered.
Okay, we're going to break for lunch and come back at 1:30. It's 12:30 now, and maybe you can find some information on that or something.
Okay, I'll find out whether.
So, I mean, at least, not speaking for Red Rock, yes, the contract started in 2012. The county changed their rates in 2013. My understanding is that Red Rock did drop their pricing starting in 2013.
Yes, they did.
I'm pretty sure they did.
Roger Cardoza again. They did drop their pricing in 2013, but when the rates switched to the recycling rates in 2015, they went back in time to pick a rate that would have been higher than what would have been effective.
Well, I thought you
back.
just
So
said
I'm
that
hearing
they-
two different
Hey,
things from
one
you
second.
guys.
No. That's the explanation. We just broke it down into the individual amounts. So 2000, if I recall correctly, in October 1st, 2015, the rate that was put into place was for, I believe, Zone 1, $18.91. Now, that was what the chart says, what should have been placed in 2012. But between 2012 and 2015, there was a 2% discount, there was a 4% reduction, and then there were some other miscellaneous
Now, they
rates.
just said that they used that.
All right, so again, the rates they were the same as they were back in 2013, I think, or 2012. But it was a new rate structure, just happened
In
to be
October, right, I
the
agree to
same.
that.
So it was a different service, it didn't reflect any of the old pricing. The Red Rock did drop the pricing in 2013 until 2015, when they introduced a new level of service.
Right.
That new level of
Good.
service was
It went away with
independent
the
of all
2%
the
and the
prior,
4%.
services and all the prior rates.
From 12 to 15, the 2% and the 4% were in
Yes.
effect?
Yes.
So then, when it went to a new service, those went away?
Yes.
It wasn't like they were charging the 2% and 4% for those
It was
three.
just new. It didn't go away. It was just a new fee was established that, was at that time, the fee, there was no 2% discounts anymore. I mean, it was, the 2% was a bidding thing.
Okay,
To establish a new service.
I think the explanation, I think where you guys are caught in the middle over here, the auditors, is that we didn't make no motions, no nothing like that to make that change, and that's where you guys are wondering what happened, okay?
Correct.
Our contract by Scott says that he could make that decision. He made that decision in October, and those went away. I have no problem with that. So if they were already deducting it, and you guys think that they weren't, well, they obviously were, but from that 15 on, they didn't do it because they made that decision with the new service, they didn't have to. So I don't think there's nobody owes nothing on that.
So one of the things in the contract, they do say that they had updated the language to make it so that only the board can approve. That language is actually in the contract present in both 2012 and 2015. So there has been very little change on that particular amendment.
Well,
So-
Scott said that they could do that, so they did do it. He made that decision. We changed the services, and this is where we are. I'm okay with that. I hope you guys are. Brett, you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay,
Mr.
Dave?
Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dave, I clicked it off.
Yeah,
Dave?
there's a little bit of confusion coming from the auditor side. I got to be frank with you. You tell us they didn't implement it. Now he tells us they did. I mean, we got to get our story straight. The fact is that to approve the original contract is in the hands of the Board of Supervisors. To change due to new services was part of the contract that we ratified originally to be able give the Public Work Director the option to negotiate new services. So that was what's happened here. The new contract will clarify that any changes will come back to the Board of Supervisors. I think, we've learned a lesson here, a valuable one, and we need to do better in the future.
Okay, now
And
that's
this will
number-
help us.
That was item 2. Now we'll go to item 3.
The only other item was that, and I don't think it's been addressed, is the roll-off to commercial customers. The contract stated a tipping fee rate. The contractor charged a higher tipping fee rate and kept that overage. The cost to the commercial public on that, and it's a one-time charge, it doesn't flow through to anything later, was $756,726. Again, it has no effect going forward, but there was nowhere in the contract that provided him, at least in our opinion, provided him the ability to change those rates arbitrarily to various commercial customers.
Scott? I want to hear it from Scott. John can say, okay.
I'll try to explain what I think this issue is. When we put the proposal RFP on the street, we told the contractor that they were to assume a rate of disposal at the landfill of $30 a ton, but the county could adjust that rate from time to time. So when we started off, the rate was $30 a ton. In 2013, it changed to 22, something like that. For most of the services, Red Rock did change the pricing. They did not change that on the roll-off pricing. And in the end, it came down to a dispute. We thought the language was clear. It wasn't a stated contract. It was an assumed tipping fee of $30 a ton.
So it wasn't printed out, $30 a ton?
It was a statement that says, assume $30 a ton in your
It
rates.
said assume.
In the RFP.
In the RFP.
But how did the contract read?
The contract reads that the county, there's certain formulas that adjust rates. The one thing that I think could have been clear was the roll-off rates. Usually there's a tipping fee and a pull fee, so when they drop the box, there's a cost for that. When they dispose it, they eventually charge you the rate. There was a disagreement between Red Rock and the county as to how to interpret the implementation of that based on the fees. Where was the profit based? Where was how did they pay for their franchise fee on their fees, especially when it's just a pass-through? Our understanding, representing the county, was that, I thought it was pretty clear that the language should be, interpreted a certain way. Red Rock was fairly certain that it should not have been interpreted a certain way. What we did on that is just to realize we've got a dispute. We don't agree as to how to interpret the contract. And rather than take it to court or anything like that, we thought it best just to clarify the language, make it crystal clear that the tipping fee that the county charges Red Rock for is going to be a pass-through cost to the homeowner. So if the county raises it, the person getting the service will pay a higher fee. If they drop it, they get a lower fee. Right. They pay franchise fees on all the revenues, even the pass-throughs. Right. So they have to make their money, if you will, on the pull charge. So they raised their pull charge to accommodate for that. It was just sort of, again, it's a dispute. It's a,
So who raised it? Red Rock raised it?
Red Rock charged a rate that, I think they didn't drop their rate, if you will, when the county dropped their rate to the on the
so they
on
kept
the
it
roll-off.
at that level.
Right, and I think it's just I think you can resolve disputes in different ways. I personally don't think it's worth going to a civil action on, or to try to resolve this. I think it's an honorable the difference of opinion, and we've taken the time to clarify the language, and I really appreciate the auditors helping us identify things that needed to be clarified. That was one of the things that really needed to be clarified, because it was not interpreted the way it was. So we've changed that language here. I think it's crystal clear now. Moving forward, I don't think we'll have that.
Yeah, Maud, did you know that rate was staying there?
Mr. Chairman, what Mr. Carton said is basically what is happening. When the audit came, the internal audit, of course, it shed light at this issue. And, I did respond to Mr. Miller, told him we are speaking with Red Rock to come to common grounds on this issue. Now, of course, from the auditor's finding, there are balances due, per his finding, to Red Rock customers. They're mostly commercial and what have you.
Do you agree with that?
I agree that the language needs to be cleared.
No, I didn't say that. I said, do you agree that there's money to be owed on those commercial roll-offs?
If you ask my personal opinion, we have not.
You were the director, and you guys must have talked.
Yeah, like I said, we're still talking, but our main concern now is clarify, make sure this doesn't happen again, and it's stopped.
I think we got that covered.
I agree it's covered.
Okay, we got
today.
that covered.
Absolutely.
We gotta
The issue
figure
will
out how
not
we're gonna cover
be a
this.
dispute in the future.
Right. I don't think there is either.
Correct.
Scott, have you got any ideas on that?
My only comment on that is, I think this even goes back to the original RFP back in 2012, and the original agreement from 2012, the language in there, the assumed $30 rate. They kept the assumed $30 rate, even though ultimately, over time, the tipping fee did decrease to 22, as John said.
But it also increased.
And then increased this.
Right. So I think, again, I as John mentioned, it's a reasonable dispute. I think both parties have reasonable positions. I frankly think the county's position is stronger, but I wouldn't necessarily advise the board to go to court over it. So that's why I think
is what you're saying.
The better resolution, I think, is going forward. Let's clarify it. Let's make it crystal clear going forward.
Yeah, we got that. Now we just figure out what we're going to do with this dispute on this
and I guess
amount of money, whatever it is.
The only comment I'll say on that, I don't know that we're here today, or that the board's in a position even today, or maybe ever, to quote, resolve every finding or every recommendation that's been addressed or brought up in the audit. I mean, I don't know how the board would do that.
I don't either, and I don't think we can either, and I don't think we have to. I think what we got to do is from this point forward, that we got everything crystal clear, like John just said, or you said.
So, in
Brett.
looking at this, so we have different rates for different, we even have different tipping fees, right? There's a tipping fee that is for the collection city, then the city of Madera pays less to tip in there to bring in as much as possible. So through the assumption of $30, even when it dropped, wouldn't that just be what the assumed fee was for the pass-through? Does that make sense? Because we kind of set it up as that way. That's why I was asking what it actually said in the contract, and then going forward to clarify what tipping fee are we going to tie it to, right? Are we going to tie it to the market? Or are we going to tie it to everywhere? So we need to figure out what that pass-through is. But
Especially with our other people bringing it
But
in.
in terms of when it
prices.
was dropped, when the county tipping fee was dropped to 22, but the rate that we had implied or set forth for roll-off was 30. I mean, that was the implied amount.
The
So
language-
why would it be dropped? Because that was the roll-off tipping fee, not the overall one.
The language in the contract could have been clearer. It did not use the word pass-through. Looking back, I think a reasonable person may think a certain way. Radrock thinks a reasonable person may think a different way. We have now clarified that it is clearly a pass-through cost. We did not use the word pass-through in the original contract. And so I think that, looking back, I realize that, yes, I could see how it could be interpreted a certain way, wrongly, but nonetheless, I think it could have been interpreted a certain way. And so I see it as a reasonable, disagreement.
Yeah.
And
We also realized during that time, and we've stated in other meetings here, that $22 was low for what the actual true cost of running the landfill was.
right.
What necessary at the time.
So if we're talking about a true pass-through, it's not a true pass-through if it's being subsidized
By everybody
to an
else.
amount, yeah.
Okay, I think we got to a point here. First of all, any public members have anything to say on this? Nope? Take your badge off.
Yeah, I'm confused. My name's Rod Hatzman. I live at 315 14 and a half. I'm confused as all get out. To me, not throwing rocks at anybody, but in the beginning of this conversation, you guys came up with a contract that was invalid in the beginning. The public director didn't have the authorization to do what the contract stated. Even though the contract.
We're clear on that.
Oh, wait.
He did
I'm
have-
gonna make my statement, then you can clarify.
Okay, but I'm running the show.
No, sir, when somebody has the floor, they have the floor.
And I just want to make sure we say the right statement.
I am.
Okay.
I'm going by the information you guys gave.
Okay.
It said that, what you guys said was that you entered into a contract that gave the Public Works Director the authority to make pay changes, right?
Yeah, I agree.
But But you went back and said that he didn't have it because he didn't have, it was above his pay grade.
No.
Yeah. That's, okay, let's do this. You guys have been debating this for the last half hour. And the information that's what I received out of the
That's what
out
you
of the
felt
general
like we
debate,
said.
right?
It's fine.
So if you go back to the original contract and it says he didn't have the authority, they gave the Public Works Director the authority to change the pay scale or whatever verbiage you want to use for that, but he didn't have the authority to do it because he wasn't of the pay grade to do that.
Scott, would you answer that?
Yeah, I mean, this is part of the confusion, and I think part of the issues that's been highlighted in the audit report, frankly. I mean, again, we're going back even further. We have an agreement, at least with Caglia, three separate agreements that began in 2012. Right. We had a series of amendments to those 3 agreements that were approved by the board in 2015. Now we're here again with another series of amendments. So some of the language from the 2012 agreement was amended in 2015, some of it wasn't. Other language is being amended here today. What is true pretty much throughout every agreement, all 3 agreements going back all the way to 2012, is there was some level of authority that rested in the hands of the Public Works Director to make certain approvals in the agreement. Now, what I would suggest is that I think over a period of time, there were certain approvals given by the Public Works Department that may have exceeded their authority in the written agreement. I think that's just fact. However, I think it's difficult to go back to 2013 or 2014 when you have, again, I'll put in air quotes, approvals given by the Public Works Department to the company. The company performs in reasonable reliance. I'll say it's reasonable reliance at that point, that the company is performing in that fashion. Okay? And now things have happened over a series of years. And so we're going to revisit that in an audit report and trying to make corrections. And I would suggest, again, that I think the parties, based on what they were doing at the time, was reasonable. Okay? And so the board is authorized, I think, to approve that retroactively if it desires to do so.
Reaffirm, ratify.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, again, I don't think we could go back and every single approval, again, air quotes, approval that was given by the Public Works Department. I don't know all the approvals that were given on a day-to-day basis from 2012. But I think it's fair to say, like I said, that there was probably some that were exceeded their authority that should have gone to the board. Okay? What we have clarified in the agreement is kind of on a case-by-case basis when those should go to the board. I think in addition to the agreement, I think the parties now realize you better get board approval if you're doing anything funky, because you're going to get hit with an audit report and publicly shamed. So nobody wants that again. Nobody wants that process again, believe me. Okay? So I think
both sides.
I think everybody's going to act in a fashion more in accordance with the letter of the agreement. But again, what I would suggest, I think, to the board and even to the gentleman's comment is there was authority given in the contract to the Public Works Director to make certain approvals.
I agree that now.
And we take that away. And that's what's so important about this public process and the auditor's ability to look into things to make sure that if you use an audit not as a gotcha, but as a management tool, and that's exactly what this is, to say, okay, this is ambiguous, it needs to be cleaned up. This, it's followed, and there is the ability to do that, but is it the right ability to be placed in?
It's a good examination.
Anybody's hands.
Yeah.
Well,
Sir, back to you.
Well, when you go back to what he was saying, he said that the decisions were made that he didn't have the authority. And I'm not throwing rocks at anybody. To me, a fact is a fact. And the fact is that once it went out of his authorization level, it didn't matter what the contract said. The contract said he was going to give $1 million to every employee that he had. He didn't have the authority to do that, and he didn't have the authority to fulfill the contract. So because of that, everything from that point on was wrong. And now you're trying to justify it by a later on issue. And so if you go back to a fact, the fact is that the contract was written inappropriately because they were presuming that somebody had authority that they didn't have. And it was agreed on, which means that...
By us 5 board members.
Right.
So
the problem is that once you had a breach of contract, the contract stated that somebody had the authority that didn't, and they used that authority because it said it in the contract. So technically, it was all voided because he didn't have the authority to authorize something. So once the changes were made after that authorization, that was a breach of contract because the contract stated X, Y, Z, period. It didn't say if we decide something later on.
But
And now,
anyway.
and so what you've done is you've clouded all the issues by stating, okay, but in the future we can do this. That's all well and good, and it's appreciated. But the fact remains is that the contract was breached when somebody that didn't have authority made a judgment call and used it.
Well, I think Scott is saying just the opposite of that myself, but Scott?
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I mean, I'm not suggesting that, he brings up an interesting point. I mean, technically speaking, you could argue that there was a breach of the agreement, but the county never pursued a breach. And so we've been going on for 5 years with that. And so in some cases, you have statutes of limitation that would prevent you even from pursuing a breach of an agreement at this point. And so, again, it's only a breach if one party finds it's a breach. It's a material breach. And I would suggest that the
way
county...
you're framing that, I think the way you're framing this is incorrect, because our staff was, if there was a breach, we were all complicit in the breach. How do you have a breach when everybody's talking about what they're doing?
Well, and that's where I get back to my previous comment about, I think the company acted reasonably in reliance on information that was provided by the Public Works Department.
Right. And I agree.
Now, again...
Now, I didn't at first, but I do now.
But I think it is important to note that technically, I think there were approvals that were given that were beyond the Public Works Department's purview. That's clear. I think that's clear. The audit finding has made that. I think going back and revisiting it, we've all made that conclusion.
Right.
But again, if you want to wind up in litigation with Cagliari or whoever, you could certainly do that. Absolutely. You could say, you know what, forget the amendments. We're going to sue on behalf of everybody and try and get rates back and do whatever. In some of those instances, it wouldn't even be any benefit necessarily to the county. It might even be the opposite way.
Right, exactly.
Because to the extent that there may have been, quote unquote, again, and I'll put in air quotes, overbilling or a dispute about what was billed to actual rate customers, the county saw extra franchise fees technically on that. Okay, so there may be a refund owed there. But again, I think rather than ending up in litigation over issues that, again,
clean it up.
We're going to get in that litigation, you're going to have Public Works employees from the department up on the witness stand. Didn't you say that was okay to the company to approve that rate? Absolutely, I did. Okay, so the county is not going to be in a good position to pursue a breach of agreement case here on any of these contracts.
And our contracts are a little lax, like all three of you said, so even our auditor said that, so.
I think more important than that, I mean, there's the assumption that it could have been outside of the purview for him to do. The language was too ambiguous. It didn't expressly say that the Public Works Director couldn't make those authorizations. It didn't say in there that it had to come to the board for those approvals. It was quiet to that, to what the actual authority, where the authority lie. So there was, if you don't have that authority expressly spelled out, but you do have some authority that rested within the decision-making of the Public Works Director, then you can't have a breach of contract because there was no point in which it said he can't, or he or she cannot make those decisions. Exactly. So there would be no breach. It was maybe, should it have come here? Absolutely.
No, we know today.
But the Public Works Director at that time chose from what his interpretation of his powers were to be able to make those decisions internally without coming to the board. And so that puts us in this really weird, ambiguous spot that doesn't say that it couldn't be done. Now we have to clean that up so that we're never in that situation again, because I don't think that what was done was a breach of contract or outside of his purview. It may not have been inside of his purview either.
Right.
But nothing spelled out to that level of detail. So I don't think that we would have a case. I don't think Caglia has a case. I don't think that it went outside of those things, because those things, there isn't a box to put those in, and now there is.
So, Mr. Frazier, what you're saying is if
One
in
second.
the...
Hold on.
Dave's
I
got-
have
oh,
the
I'm
floor.
sorry.
I have the floor.
And then I get back to you.
Totally agree with my colleague, and furthermore, I would also like to state, in line with that, that the decisions that were made, I don't disagree with, and they were not detrimental. And that's what I'm trying to say. The bottom line to our constituency is they've been served all along. We have had a problem here, and we're working through it, and that's good. I appreciate the auditor doing his job and getting that out so that we could take care of it. So, but as far as impropriety here, I don't see that. There's no impropriety. Human error, yes.
More than anything. And we all do that.
A silence on an issue in a contract that should probably have had language, yes. And we're rectifying that today. So I think, well said, Brett. And my addition to that is the good decisions have been made, even outside of the fiasco of that contract issue. Thank you.
Sir.
So what you're saying is that if they would have put a water tender's name in place of the Public Works Director, that person would be authorized to extend the contract. You're saying it's okay because that's what the contract said, even though the water tender knew his position didn't authorize him to make that type of judgment call.
So I mean, that's
different things to it
that's
now.
obviously, that's kind of using of an absurd
It's
intentional to make the point. I understand that, but nowhere in the contract does it ever talk about a water tender. It does, however, in the previous contract, lay certain powers and abilities of the Public Works Director to make calls like that, in which he exercised what he thought would have been his authority to do so. So there was no water tender that was allowed to do that, so they wouldn't do that. However, the Public Works Director had certain expressed and implied authority, and he at that time exercised his implied authority, and we don't want that authority to be laid at the Public Works Director's feet at this point moving forward. So yeah, that's absolutely what I'm saying, is that if something in the contract has some ability to do so, then yeah, I'll point back to the contract. As well or poorly written as it was, especially if we're talking about breach of contract, which you had brought up, and I don't think that this created a breach of contract, and that's why I'm comfortable moving forward from here on out.
I agree to disagree, because when you give somebody that doesn't have the authority, and again, I'm not throwing rocks at anybody individually, when you give somebody authority that doesn't have the authority to act something, and that person acts on it, it's every part of that is wrong.
Well,
If he didn't have the authority by county standards, by his job position, that's why I was using the outrageous idea of a water tender. If a water tender can't sign a contract by county guidelines, and then the contract states that he can, it still doesn't give him the right to sign the contract, because the county said, no, you don't have the authority.
The difference between again, that is that we gave authority through implied authority in the
We do
contract.
it all the time. We give authority to directors to sign documents on behalf of the county all the time.
Yeah, at that point, he was acting in what he thought was his capacity to do so.
Be able to do so.
And
lax language we had in it. So.
As a matter of policy, I don't think that is right at this point, given what we've seen could happen with it. So we will remove that implied authority and put expressed authority to this board to make any of those determinations in a public setting right out here where anybody can comment on it. So yes, at that point, he did have implied authority to do so, and I don't think that moving forward, that implied authority should rest at his feet. It should be expressed authority through a contract at this dais.
Again,
We see your concern.
Yeah.
Again,
I see your concerns
I agree to
and-
disagree,
yeah.
but we'll let it pass. There's nothing I can do. Other than voice my opinion.
Yeah, and I appreciate it.
To me, when you imply authority to something, anything, it's a misinterpretation of a word. Because
Exactly,
what
and
you're
that's why we
saying
wanna-
is, you're saying is that in a side conversation, I can give him authority, but yet, because it's implied, but I don't have the authority to give it to him. And
No,
then,
we do have the authority under our contract to give him to give him that authority.
So do you ever do that? Wait a minute, and let me fulfill the whole question. Do you ever do that in a contract that you say that I have implied that I can give all my supervisors authority to sign a contract irregardless of what the verbiage is? Because that's what you're inferring here. You're saying that he can do a pay raise or a cost of living index or whatever you want to use because
we
it's
don't have that.
implied. And when you imply something, it isn't factual. It isn't something that you can be held accountable for. It's a presumption of something.
I agree, and that's why we're removing that implied authority. I
So it
absolutely
goes
agree
back
with
to
you.
the first part where he didn't have the authority because even
No, no, no.
implied, he didn't have the right because of his job position.
No, that's where we'll disagree. Yeah.
Well,
Agree.
how about legal
Yeah.
counsel stepping in and telling me how that works?
Maybe another time?
Yeah.
Chairman, I prefer not.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, now, board, we're on 7E.
I'm going to move to approve and reaffirm, in addition to the approval of 7E, reaffirm the effective date of the December 2nd, 2015 contract is July 1st, 2015.
And that,
And to reaffirm that past actions by the Public Works Director concerning new service rates be reaffirmed.
and then we need to, we can just do that. Go ahead. Have we got a second on that?
Second.
Does that sound okay for you, County Council? Okay,
The only-
roll call.
just-
And in
Mr.
terms of-
Chairman-
in terms of the roll-offs, what are we tying that to?
Well, I'm
Or is
going
that-
to bring
okay.
that, I'm going to say we give them direction on the roll-off stuff to get that figured out and come back to us was some kind of settlement between them, and them.
Is that okay to the motion maker?
No, I wasn't going to put in the motion. I was just
okay.
going to give
Oh, that's
direction.
just direction, okay.
We don't want to put that in the motion. It had nothing to do with this.
Okay, yeah.
This contract. or
Okay.
nothing.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, just real quick, the motion included a reference to a December 2nd, 2015 amendment. Frankly, I've heard two different dates today, so I want the record to be clear. We'll just reference in general. The motion maker will change the motion to the amendments, contract amendments approved in December 2015. I don't want there to be any issue that you only
Right.
authorized the December 2nd, but the
Right.
agreements were actually approved on the 15th.
Yeah.
That's the
So-
date I remembered, but.
Just so you
I
know,
will,
it was December 15th, 2015.
Second.
And I remember that because I was not here, because it was the date of my daughter's birthday.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah, I'll amend the motion to read the contract approved December 2015, and the effective date of that contract would be July 1st, 2015.
Thank you.
Second, Wednesday.
You okay with staying on that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Now then, as a board, I'd like to see what you guys agree. We'll give direction to the auditor, the Public Works, and Red Rock to come together and figure out and bring it to us at a later date on the roll-off dispute.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I don't know that we're, per county council's thoughts, I don't know that we're going to find an amicable solution on that.
Well,
So I don't know
that's what Scott said
that,
we could.
yeah, I think we could probably work through it, but we'll we'll see what happens on that.
Scott, didn't that what you said we could do that?
Actually, I think I said, I'm not sure that we're going to be able to resolve every issue that was identified in
We
the
might
audit.
not be
but-
able to, but you guys will work together and see what you come up and
Absolutely.
bring it to us.
Discussion is in order, right.
Right.
Okay. I'm good with that.
Okay, thumbs up? Okay, 5-0, thumbs up. Okay, you guys want to go eat lunch or want to finish these next 4 items?
Let's finish, we need to finish F through E.
You want to finish them or you want to
Yeah,
do
we
one?
can do that.
7F.
7F, Public Works Department, Engineering Services Division, discussion and consideration of entering into an amendment to MCC number 9717A-C-2015 with Kegley Environmental LLC for solid waste management services at the Fairmead landfill and authorize the chairman to sign.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Adalkat Public Works Director. Again, this is for the Red Rock or Calumet Environmental Fairmead landfill operation contract that was entered into contract in 2012, amended December 2015, and the major points that this amendment will clarify or add or improve includes a listing of all fees that may be charged at the landfill and all fees the company may charge the county for services. Beginning 2019 and each fiscal year for the remainder of this contract, the company must submit audited financial statements rather than reviewed financial statements. Also, this amendment provides an additional but optional 5-year renewal term to the end of the contract that may be exercised at the board's discretion. This amendment extends the county's termination of convenience fees for 5 years to cover the remaining current term of the agreement and fixes the convenience termination fee at the current year 7 amount. Also, this amendment provides improved county control over landfill operations and clarifies operational requirements, restrictions where necessary. Also, additional services for general contract clarifications and cleanup items have also been made. And we're here for your questions.
Any questions from the board? Any from the public? Don't laugh. What's your pleasure, board?
Move to approve.
Second?
Max, second.
I think it needs the same reference to
The retroactivity.
the retroactivity for the December, or for the, apologize, July 2015 rates.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'll add that in.
Got that in? Okay, second, okay, Max? Okay. Roll call, please.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez? Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
7G.
7G, Public Works Department Engineering Services Division, discussion and consideration of entering into an amendment number MCC number 9718A-C-2015 with Kegley Environmental LLC for the transfer station operations services and authorize the chairman to sign.
And that's in North Fork, it should be on
Yes.
there.
Mr. Chairman, good afternoon. Ahmad Al-Khat again. This will amend the contract approved in November 2012 for the North Fork Transfer Station Operations Services. This contract was also amended in December 2015. Major points include a listing of fees that may be charged by the company at the transfer station and all fees the company may charge the county. Beginning 2019, audited financials will be provided by the county instead of reviewed financials. This amendment provides an additional but optional 5-year renewal term to the end of the contract that may be exercised at the county's sole discretion, which puts this covers the years from 2032 to 2037 if exercised. This will extend the county's termination of convenience fee for 5 years to cover the remaining current terms of the agreement and fixes convenience termination fee at the current year 7 amount. Also, this provides improved county control over transfer station operations and clarifies operational requirements, restrictions where necessary. Additional revisions for general contract clarification and cleanup items have also been made. and we are here for your questions.
Any questions from the board members? And the public? What's your pleasure?
And Mr. Chairman, if I can add again, same,
thing?
the suggestion, assuming that the board wants to do so, is the same suggestion on the
Move to
July.
approve with the date to
The July 2015
July
rates.
2015
Right.
rates.
Thank you.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez? Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
7H.
Item 7H.
7H, Public Works Department Engineering Services, discussion and consideration of entering into an amendment, MCC number 10249-C-2014, with the Madco Disposal Services for the solid waste and recyclable materials collection franchise, and authorize the chairman to sign.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ahmad Al-Kayat with Public Works. This is an agreement that the county entered with Imadco Disposal Services in September of 2014 for the solid waste and recycled material collection franchise. These amendments to the contract basically address and clarify, add, or delete the following issues. We are defining commercial organics collection and marketing services in compliance with AB 1826. We are listing all pricing schedules for all services provided by the franchisee, including special services and new services not covered in the current agreement. This limits the types of customer fees that may be increased as a result of increased tipping fee at the Fairmead landfill or transfer station. Beginning 2019, the company will provide audited financials rather than reviewed financials. This will extend the current agreement for 2 years to be a similar schedule for contract expiration and potential renewal as the other franchise contract with Cagley Environmental. This extends the county's termination of convenience fee for 2 years to cover the remaining extended term, the agreement, and fixes the convenience termination fee at the year 7 amount in recognition of the ongoing capital investments by the franchisee. This reduces the performance bond amount from $2 million to $1 million in recognition of relative size of Imadco's franchise contract when compared to the Cagley Environmental contract. Additional revisions for general contract clarifications and cleanup items have also been made, and we are here to take your questions.
Any questions from the board members? Seeing none. You guys got anything you got to say on it? Shake your head no. Your last chance.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez? Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
You guys don't take off because you guys got to sign contracts. 7I.
7I.
7I, Board of Directors, Special District Public Works Department Administration Division. Presentation, discussion, and direction of potential options for when rate increases are defeated for water and wastewater districts. Rate studies completed, 2 upcoming rate increases, 3 potential options when rate increases are defeated.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Abel Kayat with Public Works. With me is County Counsel, Mr. Scott Cross, and on the back is our deputy, Ms. Andres Saldate, if needed. This is an item that, per your direction and our request and your direction, we would like to come to your board and just give you a quick update of our efforts on the Proposition 218 processes for our special districts that are not meeting their maintenance and operation costs or capital costs, if when applicable. So we just generally, we have 33 water and wastewater districts. 3 districts are not being studied now due to improvement projects that will drastically change the operation and maintenance cost, and these are MD1, MD8, and MD46. 10 hearings have been held since the contract with Barker Wells was commenced with your direction to do the study, the financial studies for all districts. The 10 hearings that were held, 6 passed, and these are Service Area 1, Service Area 3A, Maintenance District 36, MD 73, MD 28, and MD 5.
And they all voted no?
They passed, yes, sir.
They all
no,
passed?
They passed.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay.
And with this passage of these 6 hearings, we are paying back the general fund $725,000 approximately, just from these 6. Now, there are 4 that failed, and these are MD6, MD7, 40A, and Service Area 19. The total debt these 4 special districts have is about $340,000. SA 19 holds roughly $300,000 of that debt. So there are about 6 that need just a CPI adjustment. And those are MD24, MD19A, SA2A, MD22, and most likely MD19B and SA30B. So all these, basically, the rate is good. We just need to apply the CPI adjustment annually. And we have, of course, more debt to be collected. There's another almost $180,000 that we will bring to your board in this coming year. Now that the board agenda has been posted, now we know when to send the hearing and dates. So they're completed, we're ready to go. And currently we have 4 that are being finalized, and these are MD10, MD33, MD43, and MD60, with a potential $160,000 back to the general fund. So why are we here? Of course, we're all aware that if Proposition 218s do not pass, then what options does your board, as board of directors to these districts, have? We have worked with county council, and we have 4 possible scenarios or solutions for your consideration. The first one is, if we do have a compliance order from a regulatory agency, the state, and the rate increase is not mitigated, does not mitigate that compliance, violation. So in order for us to be in compliance, a rate increase is needed. If we go ahead and do the Proposition 218 and it fails, then your board has the authority to raise the rate, because there is a public health issue here where the money is needed to resolve. The other option, if there is no compliance order, we can reduce expenses as much as possible, which we are, but that means reduce the level of service. I would bring your attention to maybe last month or 2 months ago when we brought MD, I forgot what it is, I think 45. Anyway,
It was 45.
45, and the ratepayers, some of them were here, and they showed us horrific photos of the status of their system. And this, for example, that's an example of a low level of service. Then what our department and what our auditor controller would only permit us to do, he will not permit us to spend general funds on these districts without, of course, your board approval somehow. But then what we only do is the absolute basic minimum. Pay your utility bill, pay your PG&E, and do your water testing, the periodic water testing, to comply with state regs. If a major problem happens, we lose equipment, then what? And that specific district actually failed the Proposition 218 quite a few times, not just this 2 months ago. So that's another option. Reduce the level of service and pray nothing bad happens. Option 3 is privatize, and we are ongoing with the first ever privatization of a district, and we're still working on that. And option 4, which is called self-governing option, create a public utility district or a community service area in which maybe your questions or county council will have more information about it. They govern themselves.
Public what?
Sorry.
Authority?
A public utility district or a community service district, a CSD, community service district. Basically, the essence of this, you self-govern your own neighborhood. Like an HOA kind of concept.
They would have an elected board of directors.
The county will be out of their business. The county will not be responsible to maintain.
Love it.
And operate.
I think that's.
Yeah. You see the wing?
I like that. I like it.
So with this, we're here to take your questions. I hope I was as clear and concise as Ms. Saldate.
It's just a shame that people don't realize what they got to do and how cheap their rates are compared to out here in the real world, so.
What is, because to change to a CSD, that would go through LAFCO, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Yep.
Okay, and so let's say they don't want to do that, right? And can they go and protest at LAFCO as well?
Yeah, that would be an option really that I don't think you can force on the people in that area. They would have to choose that option.
Right, they would have to vote to.
Correct.
To take it over themselves.
Correct.
Okay, so that, it's not as simple. I think it's a great idea. Even in some areas where I know that, like, there was a study through LAFCO for like the ranchos to become a CSD before they become a full-blown town, if they wanted to do that. So there might be some areas that it might be appealing, and then there's some that will be no, because we're not going to have a CSD of 17 people, and 5 of the 17 are on the board. It would be interesting. So one of the things, as we hear a lot of times when the rate studies are defeated, that, well, my rates are going to double in 1 year. Right, and we know that it's because for 20 years there's nothing been done, and so over time at 3 to 5% for 20 years is 60 to 100%, which is what their rate is actually up. Now, obviously, they didn't get into it overnight. Being 100% down on terms of, but is there a way to extend, instead of just taking that one big hit all in the first year, of catching them up? Can that be laddered over 3 years and then have CPI increases after that? I don't know if that's an ability. So instead of taking a whole 100%, 200%, it's 33% this year, 33% the next year, 33%. Or actually, you'd probably have to then build in the CPI in each of it, so 33, 36, 36, and then the CPI after that. Is there ways to do that?
Mr. Supervisor Frazier, yes. We take every district and the amount of debt and the district itself into consideration when we implement these rate increases. Some are gradual, and they extend anywhere from 3 to 6 years, I believe, of the ones we did. Now, if we are to go with a lesser or a longer period to pay back, I believe that is a policy issue. Now, this is when there is no compliance order. We may have that. You have the ability to create that policy. How fast would you like to pay back the general fund? But if there's a compliance order, the state or the regulators, they need to see that these neighbors here, this neighborhood here, is able to pay the M&O of the future.
Right. So in the compliance order, it has to be the full chunk.
Yes.
But in terms of if there's not a compliance order, there's an ability to ladder that in terms of the M&O rate. Is
Correct.
that correct?
Again, if there is a debt then it's your, I think it's your
Well,
discretion.
and usually
how
the debt,
fast-
we're having it paid back over 3 years, but you know, I think
Yes.
we've made some times where it went in 5 years. But when you put the debt on top of the rate increase that's to bring it up to 100% of the M&O, that's why some of these are getting voted down. So I think that might be another option that we can use in terms of bringing people along gradually versus all in one chunk the very first year. I don't know, but that could be a policy decision.
I mean, the way we were directed with your board is, we could go, is 3 years actually, is the direction. But we have went to 6 if it is to be longer, even debt or M&O, regardless. If something happens and we can't cover the M&O, that's debt accumulated.
Yeah, you did a great, I mean, you implemented what our direction was at the time, but now we have a pretty good sample size of what these districts are going to do. We have 40% fail rate. That is a very pessimistic, glass is half full approach. I could have said a 60% pass rate, but I chose 40% fail rate for a reason. So, going forward now we can maybe get some feedback, see, okay, would it have passed if it was this? And then maybe we can make those policy decisions based on that. Obviously, one of those four, they were privatizing anyway, so it was, they just didn't want to do anything with us. But I think taking what we now know and trying to apply some different logic or a different policy to be able to get people to come on board. Again, not just getting out of everything overnight, immediately your M&O goes up 100 to 200% in some cases. Obviously, I'm using the most extreme, but I think we should maybe look at that as a policy decision too, to get as many into compliance as possible, as quickly as possible. And how we do that is
Well, it's really easy by the time they do that study and do all the public hearings with those people at their places, it's just, I wish we could do them all in a month, and it's just almost impossible. But I think that we got to come down pretty strong on some of these districts to know that by the time they're going to start voting no on this, that we're going to have to do something about it. We cannot legally spend that money like we're doing. It's illegal. So, right, Todd? He's thinking on that one.
I'm glad to see this come to a head. I think I've made my point clear from the day I was elected. This has been one of my favorite things to discuss. But I made the policy and enforced it onto Public Works that there's no more game playing or money shifting. They either pay their bills or they don't pay their bills. If they don't pay their bills, I'm not paying their bills. And the only way I can do that is if you, as elected board, and this is by case law, not by statute, if you by resolution direct me to pay, I will pay. But short of that, if they don't have money to pay their bills, I ain't paying them.
Yeah, and we couldn't even been having this conversation before because there was no audited financials of the special districts, and so without that information that your office is now providing, this conversation is moot because no one knows anything, right? There's different keeper spreadsheets, and so I appreciate, because these have been the bane of my existence, as I know they are yours, and so the fact that we're finally getting to hear is much to your credit.
Yeah. Ditto.
Good, and we're not trying to be hard asses or anything. This is just what the law says. We're just following the rules.
Right, exactly. Supervisor Poitras.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say I agree with staff. I'd like to see them develop a policy or adopt a procedure that details the steps to be taken once a district defeats a rate increase.
And look
I think
at
that's what
those-
they're looking for.
Look at the public utility, brings in guidelines for the public utility districts, and we already got the community service districts, we already have that, so come up with something that we can really be forceful with these people. We can't We just can't keep doing it.
Yeah, I agree with the recommendation.
Me too.
Supervisor Rogers.
Yeah, I also agree with the recommendation, and you know, you can't do anything but reduce the level of service.
Yeah.
That's exactly what has to happen. And there comes a point at which I think these homeowners are not realizing they're affecting their property value.
Exactly.
Because when a new person comes in to buy that property, the banks are going to assess water. That's becoming standard, is it not, Mr. Poitras?
Our sewer.
Yeah, water, sewer, the whole thing is going to be looked at, and if they're not up to
They gotta
snuff,
do that.
that's going to be part of the equation when the homeowner, the new homeowner, looks at his offer and the purchase, because they have a debt.
They already are.
They're immediately in debt. Anyway, thank you.
You're just giving us a report on that, right?
What we'll do, Mr. Chairman, I think if I've heard the direction clearly, is for those who fail, those districts that failed that protested the rate increase, and those future ones that would, you would
reduce
like to
service.
have a recommendation from us based on these four options, we'll bring it to your board for your direction and approval. Sure.
You know, Ahmad, this problem has been going on for years and years and years.
Decades.
What have you done in the past when you run into this problem? What have you done? What can you do?
In the past, unfortunately, I wasn't involved in
Well,
the
let's
past
say
with
from the
this
time
one.
you have been involved, what can we do?
What I think we can do, we have vetted these four options, Supervisor Rodriguez.
What are the
with
four
council,
options?
which are, if there's a compliance order, your board, as the board of directors, can impose the new rate, even if it fails.
Okay, so
If
we
there's
have the
a-
authority to raise the rates if
Correct.
the 218 fails? We have the,
If there is a health issue, a compliance order by the
there
state.
always is a health issue out there
yeah,
with
but it's gotta
people that
be-
can't afford it.
Well, if the system fails, will definitely, eventually, there
Yeah.
will be a health issue, definitely, yes.
No, I'm with you, because they have to pay
Yeah.
what they owe.
Correct.
Well,
And-
what do you do with a district?
Yeah,
That
well,
is-
do I turn off the water?
Can you do
If they
that?
don't-
Can you do
I-
that? I've heard too, you can, the city of Madera can do that, I understand. Our districts, can we do that out there?
From the,
The
if
straight answer, I don't want,
I think we have the ability to do so, but that's not a general policy that we do. And this is something we need to discuss with council and look at the ordinances.
Okay.
But per county code or ordinances, there is some language there
Regina,
that.
you got your name up there.
Right, turning off the water, it's impossible, is what I understand, to disconnect the domestic use from the fire flow. And that's really the main concern, is that there wouldn't be an ability to protect the public if there was a fire. But I'll also just say, on the record, it wouldn't be unlawful if the board considers findings and waives a debt owed to the general fund if they find that there's a public purpose. And just because there have been times when this board has considered a debt based on rates that are owed or a loan from the general fund, and if it serves a public purpose, then it's not a gift of public funds. The policy of this board has been not to generally do that. I just want to make sure that if anybody's listening and they've seen action in the past, they don't think that what you did was absolutely unlawful. It's just not a practice that this board looks at favorably.
Okay.
so basically what you said, you can't do it. You know, you beat around the bush, but you can't do it. You can't shut the water up at public health, safety.
If we went through the dissolution process through LAFCO, if there was no entity that could take over it, like homeowners, an already established homeowners association, or this option for here of a community service district, then I think we would be putting the public in jeopardy.
Well, most of these districts that are very poor, if you can use that word, they don't have associations, they don't have anybody to fall back on, they can't afford it. I'm not defending them, I just say they should pay their bills, but they're not going to pay them because they don't have the means to pay them. And you can't shut the water off. And then the fire code there also, so really, we don't have many answers to that, you know, we're kind of against the walls.
One of the
Again,
options
that's why we're here.
under
To
number
determine.
two.
Under number two, you reduce the expenses as much as possible, and you hope that nothing bad happens. Because once something bad happens and we can't rectify it, then we are literally hauling water every day to them, and that is going to be on their district. It's
You know,
still that additional debt.
Gavin Newsom said he was going to take care of all this.
Yes.
So, you
Looking
know, our new
forward to
governor's
it.
got it handled.
I'm looking forward.
Ain't nobody protecting me.
That's for sure.
Tell you. Okay,
So
you want direction?
I think I received the direction. If you would like to repeat it, that's, I'm good with it.
Yeah,
I'll-
create that policy with the four options.
Yes.
And then, you know, I personally think if we look at how to deal, to get the feedback, to possibly look at other ways to get them up into compliance on the M&O.
Okay.
None?
Any pending legislation? Supervisor and staff report, Mr. Robb.
Mr. Chairman, I attended the EDC Summit, the fire station groundbreaking, and CAP-MC meeting. Thank you.
I went and done that fire thing too. Groundbreaking, that was pretty cool.
And the same here, the EDC Summit, fire meeting.
Yeah.
Same.
Except for the fire station. I missed that one.
There wasn't no red pants there.
No report.
No report, no report, no report.
No report.
I adjourn this meeting. Caglia, and did Madco stay? Did Madco sign their papers?
See you before then.
Oh, there they are. Chad.